Hey, good morning, buddy. Peter Boyles for George Brauchler, first day of school. And George will be here at 8 o'clock. So I got the con between 6 and 8. It is a Wednesday morning, the 9th morning of August, 2023. And you heard the weather finally breaks through. 83 will be the high, and tomorrow 92. Now, I was in Sturgis, and all it did was rain. And last night I spoke with Sheriff Reams of Weld County, and he said, I've never been so wet in my life. We didn't meet up there, but we talked. And so we had the sheriff on about 6:30 this morning. Fox and Friends is in Sturgis this morning, cooking breakfast. And it's interesting. Their reporter cannot ride. They put their reporter on a motorcycle, and it just didn't look pretty. So they're there, and it was, I don't know. I mean, it's what it is. It's the gathering. It's the Mecca. It's the Medina. It is the jihad. It's the Hajj. It's the pilgrimage, and going up and seeing everybody that I love, and it was great, and I had a good time.
Gotta love the Fox News guy, though.
Yeah, the Fox News guy cannot ride.
He cannot ride, and he is a fish out of water. This is like, I mean, this is like sending someone that has never seen an NFL game before to the NFL and have him talk to the fans.
Yeah.
It was entertaining. Yeah, he has no idea how to interact with these people. It was fantastic.
They got him off the bike. Now they got the guys on bikes. But
it was like he's like wobbling back and forth. Yeah.
But the highlight for me is because it was raining so badly.
Yeah.
We went to Crazy Horse, the carving of Crazy Horse.
Is it done?
No.
Oh, darn. I thought we were going to break news here.
They're supposed to be done, and I'm going to get somebody on maybe the Saturday show to talk about it. They have a museum. They started in 1948.
Yeah.
And there's that, those of you who have been there many times know there's kind of like a bank shot, because here's the four heads, Rushmore.
Yeah.
And then Crazy Horse. And Crazy Horse is much bigger than Rushmore. Rushmore is wonderful, but it's not as big as you think it is.
Yeah. Perspective when they shoot the shots and things like that. Yeah. It changes.
Yeah. But Crazy Horse. And so
it's like they're building one of the cathedrals in the Renaissance, where it takes like 115 years to
really
build.
Yeah.
That's
generations
really what it is.
of the village build.
Exactly.
And it's been that. And it started in 1948. So anyhow, so they have a part in the museum where you can pick up a piece of granite, and from where they cut it away. So I brought that home. It'd be for my grandson. So I got him, like, this is from cutting Crazy Horse.
You brought him a rock.
Yeah, I brought brought the kid a rock.
Yeah. You're Charlie Brown and him.
Yeah, here's a rock.
Here's a rock. Yeah.
Your grandfather.
Yes. I went to Sturgis, and I brought you a rock.
Brought you a rock.
Yeah.
I could have picked that thing up alongside the road.
Yes, exactly.
Weld County.
Yes. Now don't throw that at anybody.
That's right. No, it's like, so I said, well, anyhow, but now they have the finger, and because he's Crazy Horse is pointing.
Yeah.
And I'd read that book about Crazy Horse because of now this got to learn more about George Custer and what happened, but no one knows where Crazy Horse is buried. And so he points to the land, and that's the purpose of him pointing. He was murdered, but by soldiers. He was stabbed in the back by a soldier with a bayonet. And
you know what's going to happen once they finish that with Crazy Horse pointing? It's going to be like Leaning Tower of Pisa, how everybody's holding up the tower. Everyone's going to stand just outside of the frame of that point. So he's going to be pointing at whoever's in the picture.
Well,
that's what you're going to have.
I took a bunch of pictures, and friends with it, True went, and Kenny went, and Deb went, and TP went, TP's wife went, and it was great.
Oh, how cool.
But it was like spiky when the rain's like spiky. And so
there are very few things that are more miserable than trying to ride in the rain. There are very few that are just more miserable experiences.
It really wasn't, but it was fun, and it was Sturgis, and we're home. So I get Sheriff Reams on at 6:30, and we'll talk. But if you've been to see Crazy Horse, it's moving along. They claim that they're going to be done by 2035. And the guys I was with who really are smart said there's no way that's going to be done by 2035. But apparently they also turned down $10 million federal taxes if somebody offered $10 million to the project. But it is amazing. You can see it from the road. And it was so foggy that day that when we were at Crazy Horse, you can't see it.
Oh, wow.
And but it was just, and they have a museum there that's really full of Native American artifacts. It's just, it's a really spectacular museum. And
cool.
so the one that they have up at Little Bighorn is, but then they have relics. I don't know if relics is the right word of Little Bighorn that
cool.
are because of Crazy Horse was there, and they have pictures of these. There was a believe it or not, and I'm sure you do. There was a reunion.
Really?
In 1946 of the Native people that would come forward and say, "I was at Little Bighorn.
Wow.
I was a warrior."
Jeez.
And there's a picture of
That'd be cool.
about 20 old men,
Ooh.
and they were there.
Wouldn't that be a conversation?
Woo!
Oh,
What
man.
they had to say, and that's it reminded me. I said that they would have these reunions of the Civil War veterans, the men of Gettysburg, who both sides, and they would hug one another when they met.
Jeez.
And
think about that, because you with your buddies up there at Sturgis, you guys sit around the campfire during the night, and and some of the other people around there get maybe one or two drinks into them, and then the stories start flowing. Imagine the stories you would have sitting around the campfire with those guys. Yeah.
But this picture was just, I mean, and these are the veterans, if you would, of the Little Bighorn. And then they had a bunch of, which it's just really a cool experience. And so that was the highlight. 303-696-1971. What I'd really like to talk about is these seclusion rooms. And like so many of you, we've been watching this on television. And the Denver Police Department opened an investigation into these monitored seclusion rooms. And now there's again, you can always count on these people that want to do away with seclusion rooms. Headline: Colorado lawmaker wants to ban seclusion rooms in schools as Denver investigation continues. Now, I'm an old guy, and I want to know from you, 303-696-1971, what was punishment? What was when it was handed out when you went to school? And I remember I'm in school, and were you a prayer kid or was prayer gone?
Oh no, we had prayer.
You had prayer.
Yeah. But again, I was in the Catholic school system as well.
I was going to say
I had a lot of prayer. I spent a lot of time in church.
Yeah, but
a lot.
But but in public school, Madeline Murray O'Hare got rid of prayer. Or the court decided against prayer.
I was only in one public school, and we were still doing the pledge. We weren't doing the prayer at that point.
Well, that's the other thing I wrote down. I'm only going to do 2 hours. I'm Peter Boyles. Good morning, everybody. Billy Thorpe, Peter Boyles together. 303-696-1970. 1971 is the number. The lines are open. It's going to be a nice day. But remember what school was like. And if somebody would have said seclusion rooms, I think that would have been where they muffled the sound of the beating.
Yes, exactly. They would have soundproofed that thing.
Yeah.
And said, "Here we go." And there would be a choice of paddles outside the door that the teacher could choose from.
Yeah.
And they'd all have names. It'd be like Floyd, John, Thomas. Yeah.
Which one you want?
Exactly.
Here's they're back doing a live shot in Sturgis this morning.
There they are. Yeah.
It's like this guy. They put him on a bike, and he went. No.
And of course, there he's in his nice, button-down shirt.
Oh,
you don't even know the audience. No.
Well, that was the thing too, because I brought a bunch of shirts back, and it's meant for everybody. But when you say you're going to Sturgis, everybody bring me a shirt.
Oh yeah, yep.
And it's like the reason is because then they wear them.
Yep.
And then somebody, have you been there?
Yeah. Oh yeah. My son gets so many compliments on the ones you bring back.
Yeah, well, sure.
So many compliments.
He's such a good kid.
Yeah.
But
I like the seclusion room, and what do we do about the discipline is, and I talked about it with George a little bit yesterday. We only touched on this, but I'm sorry to break this to you. but some of your children are monsters.
Absolutely.
Absolute monsters. And the idea that we are going to outlaw this, to me, I don't understand, because to me, the lawmaker doesn't understand what is going on in the schools. And I will share only 2 stories, 2 small stories. I got these from an educator, a friend of mine. 2 stories. This educator personally had her jaw broken by another student.
Oh, yeah.
Like, wait a minute. There's another teacher that had a broken femur. The femur is the bone that is in your thigh. That is the largest leg bone you have. And it was broken by a student. Pardon me. And we're mad about seclusion rooms. I think we're missing the plot of the story here. Some of your kids are monsters, absolute monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the idea that there's a seclusion room, yes, absolutely.
So,
I'm surprised that every single school doesn't have one. Very surprised.
303-696-1971 is our phone number. I, of course, will be back here on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. How was punishment dealt out when, because the radio station has generational listeners. And when I started thinking about this idea, I said, well, we're going to get from the alpha to the omega. When were teachers, I mean, I was in that time period where they would paddle you.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get smacked.
Yeah.
And also, but we had prayer. We had the Pledge of Allegiance. There wasn't the kinds of things that I'm told are taught today. I did terrible in school. I mean, I was an awful student. I was a terrible, I barely graduated from high school. I loved, the one thing I just loved to do was read, and I would take these AP history classes, the advanced placement, and I'd tear them apart, and I wouldn't do anything.
You wouldn't do the work.
They wouldn't do the work.
Yeah.
But
you were just there. You were just there to absorb the knowledge. It wasn't about that.
Yeah. Now I could, I could like debate the teacher. That was a jerk. So, Peter, somebody's asking, was there any nudity in Sturgis? Nudity tea, I guess, in Sturgis. There's always, somebody that there's a day and place called Hewlett, Wyoming, and believe it or not, it's called No Panties Tuesday.
You have my attention.
I went once. I went, no, put them back on.
No, yeah.
I got to go now. I saw a couple of women that they get their bodies painted.
Yeah.
And then they walk the street, but it was too cold. I mean, it was cold. It was wet.
And paint washes off. That's not good. Yeah.
Well, the newspaper that is of record, they always have, like how many arrests were last night, or how many bikes crashed, or, the arrest dope, how many dope arrests there are. And occasionally now there's a prostitution arrest, but, but that makes sense. But they said they had 3 to 4 inches of rain.
Ooh.
And Rapid City floods.
Yeah.
And so, no, it was just, you get up in the morning, look outside. Ugh.
Yeah, the rain's been crazy this summer.
Yeah,
we actually have not even turned on our sprinkler system because we get enough rain.
So the sheriff will come on and we'll talk about it. He said, Sheriff Reams is like the best. He said, I've never been so wet in my life. He called me and I said, well, it was plenty wet.
Oh, yeah. That's
so
awful.
But I want to know about when you were a young man or young woman, where'd you go to school? How did they hand out discipline when you went to school? And I wrote down prayer, and I wrote down spanking, and then the Pledge of Allegiance. And let me see what these things are coming in. This is true. I'm 76 years old now. I spent most of the 6th grade in the hallway. That's a funny text.
Oh, that is. I got in trouble sitting in the hallway in 7th grade. I got sent out of class. And I was sitting there outside of the class, and one of my buddies is further down the hallway, and I know what class he's in. So I want to go and goof around.
Oh,
with him,
looking
and so
on
I
the
wanna see
window.
him.
Yeah,
I want to go
sure.
look at him. So I slowly scoot myself down the hallway, and the teacher had kicked me out because she said I was just being too slow and I wasn't paying attention. And so then she comes out after class. I'm not sitting right near the door. I'm about a third of the way down the hallway. She's like, Thorpe, what are you doing down there?
Yeah.
Like, and I looked at her surprised. I'm like, I have no idea. I guess I'm really slow. Must have slipped all the way down here because gravity doesn't work right. And she just stares at me like, you little,
you fill in the blank.
Yeah, of course. But it was my mouth that got me kicked out of class in the first place. So,
What I never understand is why they would put you in the hallway.
I know.
Did you ever get sent to the principal's office?
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah.
And that was a biggie.
Yeah, it was. Although there was one time that I was sitting in the hallway that and this was in high school. Oh, I can't believe it. But yeah, I got sent in the hall in high school, and it was one of the best moments I had ever seen. I was sitting across from another classroom. Again, I'm trying to wave to one of my friends and say, he's like, you're in the hallway again. I'm like, yeah, I am. And the teacher always leaned back on his chair, but he's got like a one that's like the height of a bar stool. It's really high, and he's leaning back and he's trying to lean back to catch the back of the chalkboard. And and it goes out. All of a sudden, the legs go out, and he just bam right on the ground. And I'm looking at this like, oh my goodness. He gets up, he brushes himself off, looks at class, and said, "That would have killed the ordinary man." I just lets him hang there. I'm like,
good line.
I like you.
Good
I'm
line.
like, okay. I get so much respect for him. I never had a class with him, but I'm like, now I got to find a class with you. I got to make sure I take a class with you. A guy that can come off with that after falling down.
From the wall, Peter, if you got into trouble in school, you would have in school suspension, or they suspended you for 3 to 5 days, 1 to 5 days, depending on what you did. Cigarettes, smoking, they caught you smoking.
I remember going to school where they had a smoking section.
Well, I'm telling you, man. I mean, and you would, there were bathrooms you go into, and you sat in the little stalls and passed a cigarette.
And you could
underneath,
you could hear the keys, the janitor coming out of the hall, so you knew the cigarettes had to go out because you hear the
put it on,
jing, jing, jing. Yep,
hear that noise. They're dumping them more.
Yep.
But there was some smoking in the boys' room, which I think was a rock song.
Yeah, it was. Yep. Yeah.
So anyhow, it is your turn. Now we have seclusion rooms. And apparently what is in seclusion rooms are things to punch, and maybe a dog is in there with you. Or I read different things last night about what's in seclusion rooms. And
and I'll have some stories too as we go forward. That talk about some things that are contemporary, that within the last few years that I know of going on as far as disciplinary issues in schools, middle schools, and especially elementary schools. Some of these disciplinary issues that are happening in elementary schools will surprise you. Really will surprise you.
But I mean, truly, the fear of getting smacked was it was real. And there were teachers. I think they were like the designated hitter.
Oh yeah.
I think, I can remember their names, and boy, oh boy, oh boy. I mean, because if a woman teacher was going to, no big deal.
Oh, yeah.
But they would go bring in Mr.
Yes. Yeah.
And he
with these huge hands, just gigantic.
Former Marine.
Yes, exactly.
And he would have, like a paddle as long as like from your elbow to the tips of your, and he could bring smoke. You just didn't want to be with that guy.
Yeah. You think someone like Hank Aaron, Bo Jackson can hit for the fences. Oh, yeah.
Here's one. I come from the days when the teachers made us bend over, and they would whack our ass as hard as they could, sometimes with a book. That's right. Forgot that.
Yeah, and the book is important because it has to have the right amount of weight to hurt, but not heavy enough to slow down the momentum. Yeah.
Speed with it. All right, 303-696-1971. When you were in school, and you have to kind of tell us the years, because I think it's going to make a cut where the years are. But I was in the 50s and the early part of the 60s, and they had no problem smacking you, and they had no problem walking down the aisles between the desk and cracking kids on the back of the head. I mean, it went. He was shot in the back of the head, and it's like, and I don't think you could go home and say, I got a shot in the back of the head, because then you get another one. I think, really? Boom. Like my brother's running gag is, and he was 7 years old till he found out his name wasn't Shut Up. Let me read this one. In grade school, for some reason, I was in a lot of fights. Can you relate to this? As punishment, the school had boxing gloves. That's true. As punishment, they made me fight the other kid with gloves. All the male teachers had a good time watching. No, that's true. When you're planning to fight, meet you at the flagpole. We had the smokers launch pad, 1977. Yeah, there was a wall that some kid wanted. If you wanted to, some kid wanted to fight. There's no worse feeling than one of their toadies comes over and says to you, such and such wants to see you at the wall at 3:30 when school's. Oh man, all day long, you're thinking, because these kids are like gorillas, right? What am I going to do? And you say you better get the first shot in and then see what happens next. But I'd forgotten that. You're planning to fight. Meet you at the flagpole. We had the smokers launching pad. Yeah, I mean, now I guess they would, if you carried cigarettes. I remember one time a kid is one of the Barney badass kids, and he had a pack of cigarettes, and they used to roll them up in their sleeves. That's 1,000 years ago. And the teacher crushed his cigarettes. Here's one. And then we'll pause. We'll start this puppy up. Peter Boyles sitting in for George. George will be back here right at 8 o'clock. It's first day of school. Billy Thornton, Peter Boyles. I'll be here next Saturday. So I'm reading this book now called Starkweather. It's all the millions of different things I'm reading. And I'm back reading Native American history and all this kind of stuff. But I got this book. It's about Charlie Starkweather, who the reason we say mass murderer or we use terms like thrill killer is because of this. He's 19 years old. It's 1958. He's in Nebraska, begins to murder people in Lincoln. They finally capture him in Douglas, Wyoming. So he's got this look with the hair and the cigarette and his mouth is open. James Dean sees this picture. And that's who he becomes in Rebel Without a Cause. He knocks off Charlie Starkweather's picture. And the way Charlie talked, well, no, did that whole conversation with a cigarette in his mouth and the hair. And James Dean knocked off Charlie Starkweather and remember what his name was, Jim Stark. His name was Jim Stark in the film. And in fact, according to the book, he was doing Charlie Starkweather. All right, your turn. I'm sick of this. 303-6969. No, it is so cool to be back here in the morning with Billy. 303-696-1971. I think when we come back, we'll do a quick drop with the sheriff. Why don't we do that? We'll get Sheriff Reams on, and then we'll take everybody's calls. Hang on, everyone. 710 KNUS. Morning, everybody. It's a Wednesday, the 9th morning of August, and Kristi Noem, the governor of South Dakota, is on Fox and Friends, and they're in Sturgis this morning. Good morning, everyone. Our weather here in Denver, 83 will be the high today, sunny and breezy, and 92 on Thursday. And he's become such a great friend, and we crossed paths in Sturgis but didn't see one another. Please say good morning and welcome home to Sheriff Reams, Weld County. What a trip that was. Good morning, sir. Thanks for doing the show.
Good morning, Pete. Thanks for having me on, and I'm glad I'm out of the rain.
It was 4 days of nothing but rain. They're showing Fox News is there. I think they're at the Buffalo Chip, and they got Kristi Noem's on, and they did opening ceremonies, and we went to them, and they had the Budweiser Clydesdales. They never took the Clydesdales out of the truck. It's like, wait a minute. So, and what'd you say? You'd never been so wet in your life.
I could have jumped in a swimming pool and gotten drier. I mean, it was rough, as you know. I picked up rain about an hour outside of Devil's Tower, and never got into clear riding until about 10 minutes outside of Sturgis. I spent a lot of time very, very wet.
It was, and the there's a paper up there. There's a couple of papers up there, but one of the claims that they made, and I'm sure it's true, they got like between 1 and 4 inches of snow, and it was the wettest Sturgis. I mean, I've been in Sturgis where it rains, but it's supposed to rain. But this was like nonstop. And
yeah, you know, the conditions of those campgrounds, and you see it in a lot of folks' photos, but when you're driving by some of those different campgrounds, you're like, my gosh, how do you even get back into some of those? I mean, it was a muddy mess, but you know, it didn't stop the fun. Everybody was still having a good time.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that's what Sturgis is all about. I mean, it was still fun.
Yeah, and they're still rocking, and now the sun's come out, but some of the places they actually shut down because of the mud. And they said, no, we're not going to, because guys are going to, you know, sink the bike up to the axle, and now you got to come in and get them. Nah, that's okay. But for people that don't understand why we go and do that, how do you best explain it?
You know, it's probably the best gathering of just friendly folks that I've ever been around. I think the first time I went up to Sturgis was in 99 or 2000. I'm struggling with the year, but you're instantly welcomed in by this group of, you know, rough looking people that, you know, everybody has a stigma about out in society. But man, once you're there and you can sit down anywhere on the street and strike up a conversation. You know, there's awesome motorcycles to see, and it's just the environment. I think everybody up there is there for a good time. No one's looking to cause trouble, and it's just, you know, it's a great atmosphere. It's got a little something for everyone, as long as, you know, you have a motorcycle involved.
The infamous, it was called the Bare Knuckle Saloon, and there used to be fighting there every night. Guys would pick each other out on weight levels and go at it. The Bare Knuckle Saloon doesn't fight anymore. It was a huge disappointment. There's no more fights in the Bare Knuckle. I've never, in all my trips up there, I've never seen like two guys go at it in a bar. I've never seen people fight in the street. I've never seen any of that stuff. So it has I think at one time, I think it had its moments, but none. I think it's just family stuff now.
Yeah, you know, I've been up there a lot of different times, and over several decades now, and I've never, same as you, I've never seen a fight. I've never even seen two guys square off with each other.
No.
Regardless of whether they're wearing patches or flying colors, or part of a motorcycle club. I mean, everybody there knows it's kind of a fun zone, and you know, I think they keep their distance from each other if they got beefs, and there's just not a problem. I mean, I don't know. I have a great time every time I go, and wish it was, you know, 2 or 3 times a year instead of just one.
I said it's Vegas for the mob. You know, you could go to if you're in the mob, you went to Vegas, everybody leave each other alone. Next year we'll ride up together. There's a bunch of people I really want you to meet, and they want to meet you. And I told them you were there, and I said you'd fit in. And the guys we went, but the one thing I did, I was talking about it earlier. We went in the General's Denali, so that's how we got there. Went to see Crazy Horse, the carving of Crazy Horse. Went right up to it, and the museum, and they finally got a finger. They got Crazy Horse's finger. So,
well, you know, I hadn't been by Crazy Horse in 20 years, and in 20 years, you're right, they got a finger. You know, by the time that thing's done, I don't know if my grandkids will still be alive, but you know, I guess they're making some progress.
Well, they are. They said, quote unquote, Crazy Horse will be carved by 2035, and everybody in our group went, no, it won't be. It won't be. Did you get a chance to go to Rushmore? I know going to Rushmore is a big deal with you too. Did you?
Yeah, I try to make an annual trip by there. I did that on my way home. As you know, the morning up there was a little drier, so when I left out yesterday morning, I made my pilgrimage to the heads. Took a few photos.
See the heads.
Just kind of did a rolling drive by and kept on moving because I did not want to get stuck in the rain again. But I did make the pilgrimage.
Did you catch hail? Did you get that hail?
I was lucky not to get that this year, and thank God, because that's awful on a bike.
One more thing that has to do with our on-air topic. When you were a kid growing up, how did discipline handed out when you went to school?
Swiftly and justly. I mean, I went to school in Texas, and you know, it was no big deal for a kid to get yanked out of class. I can speak from experience.
Oh, yeah.
And in middle school, even we had a principal, Mr. Whitaker, who would get on the PA system and call you down, and everybody knew what you were going down there for.
Yeah.
And when it came time to give swats, he would actually open the blinds to his window so anybody passing by would see it occurring.
Wow.
And that sent a message. You know, you didn't mess around with Mr. Whitaker.
I was mentioning there were these guys, they were the designated hitters, and you know, were, you know, I think some of them were former Marines, you know, that after the war became teachers, and they just didn't tolerate it. And I wonder, would that system be better now than all the seclusion rooms? And imagine the Denver cops right now are in an investigation into the seclusion rooms. It just doesn't feel like much of a headline to me.
No, that to me, that seems like beating your head on the wall. I mean, I know that there may have been folks that got a little out of hand with corporal punishment back in the day, but I never witnessed it.
No.
You know, everything I got, I deserved.
Yep.
And everything my friends got, they deserved. And
Yep.
none of us were scarred by it. We learned a lesson, and I think you're right. You know, there's something to be said for what worked in the past and what's not working now.
Were you a school prayer kid?
No, by the time I got to school, there was no more prayer in school. We still did the pledge, which is even becoming a rare thing now, but no prayer in school.
Because I wrote down spanking, prayer, you know, those kinds of things. And you never took, and again, I don't know if it's good, bad, or indifferent, but gym class with girls, that was strictly unheard of. But I was a prayer school kid. And I just remember that, you know, I don't think I paid much attention to what was going on, but different kids had to stand up and read the Bible, and then you did the Lord's Prayer, the final, and you pledged, and I don't know which came which. I think the pledge might have been first, but now I'm told it's strictly on a voluntary method. In other words, if you don't want to pledge, you don't have to pledge.
Well, that's a problem in and of itself. But I can tell you, when Mr. Whitaker got on the PA system, there was plenty of prayers going on for everybody that got called on his
Oh, not me, please. And then, oh God. And no, this guy, the one guy's name was Mr. Vint, and he was the shop teacher, and his first two fingers were gone. It was one of those lost him in the bandsaw, and Mr. Vint could bring smoke. No, Mr. Vint, it's okay. You're the best. Let's go for a ride this weekend. Go talk.
You bet, man. Let me know, Pete.
All right,
as long as it's not raining.
I'll tell you. Sheriff Reams, Weld County, this is the best man, you guys. Really good man. Thank you, sir, for the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pete.
All right, you're welcome. All right, we got, do we want to keep going or take a break? All right, we got folks on the phone. 303-696-1971. Peter Boyles in for George. He'll be here about 8 o'clock. School lawmakers want to ban seclusion rooms. These horrible seclusion rooms. They've long ago, I think, quit spanking. School prayer. Let me read you a bunch of quick ones real quick. I went to school from the mid-'60s to 1980. Punishments were fun because one particular teacher would make us sit under her desk. Now, here's one, Billy. This was great because her bottom drawer is where she kept all the toys she confiscated from other kids. I'm embarrassed to admit I was Eddie Haskell good. I fooled most, but not all. It was in the principal's office that I learned to read upside down. This is before ADD was recognized as a problem. That's good. Funny thing, after the fights, I usually became friends with the kids. When you're planning to fight, meet you at the flagpole. So we'll take calls. It's Wednesday morning, and it's going to be 83 for a high, 92 on Thursday. Hang on. Billy Thorpe, Peter Boyles return. Good morning, everyone. Wednesday. I'm Peter Boyles, in for George. He'll be here at 8. August the 9th, 2023. I wish this weather was last week, and I wish it was in South Dakota. 83 will be the high, sunny and breezy. 92 Thursday, and on Friday, 93 degrees. A couple of, from the wall, it says in elementary school, the principal had a hardwood paddle hanging on the wall behind the desk. And it had the words, the Board of Education, carved onto it. Next one, 5th through 8th grade, went to private school. We got swatted with a big paddle. Went to school mid-50s. So before we go to the phones, Mark Crowley's here. And we were talking about it. You're not sure, you think you were a prayer school kid.
Yeah, I went to private school
Right.
in early, up through through 8th grade. And there was prayer for sure. And we, as a matter of fact, we used to go to the different synagogues to see
wow.
Jewish
wow.
services. So, and then we'd go to a Catholic church, and we'd go to a Christian church, and we'd go to synagogues just to experience the different types of religion.
That's
on the
smart.
school bus. We'd get on the school bus
yeah.
and go there.
What about the swatting?
No swatting ever, but I went to Thomas Jefferson High School and in the mid 70s, and anybody who went to TJ knew Mr. Day, Don Day. He was the assistant principal, and you did not want to go down to his office.
Talk to you.
Yeah, I only landed down there a couple of times. I got in with I had a 4th hour video assist period where I'd set up the projectors and all that. And then we would get all that done, jump in the car,
sure,
and ditch the rest of the hour. And our
Mr. Day found out.
No, he not for that, but I can't remember the teacher's name who was in charge of us. But he just kind of looked the other way. As long as we got our work done, you guys can go down to the donut shop or up to the Big Boy, which is now New York Daily News. And,
I know right where that is. Sure. And so then you could hide out.
Yeah, we hid out for about 45 minutes. We'd be able to be gone.
So, what do you think of seclusion rooms? And you're a former police officer. It's amazing. The Denver PD is opening an investigation into seclusion rooms.
Well, I think there's a place for them. I think they can certainly go wrong, just like anything else. But I do think that there's a place for them where some of these kids, and like Bill was saying yesterday when he's talking to George, some of these kids are monsters, and you're not allowed to lay a hand on them. And so what are you going to do? You've got to isolate them until you can get somebody there who's able to do that. And that's what, and sometimes that's all they need is a place to chill and cool off, and then they can go back to their day.
To the wall. And then we'll go to the phones. Pete and Billy, good morning. 55 years ago, I couldn't ride on my friends, and I wouldn't ride on my friends, and the assistant principal put me in a storage locker. Billy, this is a good one. And it might have been the janitor's closet for the whole day, but at night in the main hall, so kids could slide candy under the door for me. I'm fine, didn't hurt me at all. I just got what was there. I thought it was fun. See, a seclusion room. I think radio stations might need seclusion rooms. Let's see what this guy has to say. He waited. Hey, Dwayne, you're on a radio show, man. Good morning. It's a Wednesday. Thank you.
Good morning, sir, and glad to talk to the man. A couple of things. The seclusion rooms, I want to see them gone. My child has special needs, and he had cerebral palsy and was crippled, and they would put him in there, and it was a pink room. And if you ever want to win a bet in the gym locker, is to sit there and have somebody bench press 100 pounds, but then show them a 8x10 sheet of pink they can't lift. It's a psychological thing. Well, he would go in there because he was very nonverbal and everything else. Well, once he had surgery and he could move, the pain was gone. And he would be in that room and it would just exacerbate his pains. And I was very glad to see that they had stopped using them after some heavy conversations. That's my point on the seclusion rooms.
What
Now
ab-
on the spanking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What about you? What were your experiences?
As far as the seclusion rooms?
Well,
or
no,
the-
I mean when you were a kid. What were?
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Well, I
Is
started
is-
my
wait,
education.
wait, hang on. I got the music. You're on hold. We'll hold you over. Bring you back. Mark Crowley, Peter Boyles, Billy Thorpe, George will be here in about an hour. And what was school like for you? And now the seclusion rooms and nobody gets smacked. Mr. Who again? Mr. Day. We're coming back. Stay here.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Morning, everybody. It's a Wednesday, August the 9th, 2023. I'm Peter Boyles. George will be here in an hour. 710 KNUS Weather Center weather. You heard it, in the 80s today, 90s tomorrow. And looks like the weekend we get in and out of the 90s and rain. What we were talking about, and it's been funny stuff, and some of it is quite serious, but about the monitored seclusion rooms here in Denver, and the Denver PD, and we were just talking to Mark Crowley. I'll read this to you. The Denver Police Department is opening an investigation into the monitored seclusion rooms, and she is in Colorado Springs and wants to, do it right. A Colorado lawmaker wants to ban the use of seclusion rooms in schools statewide. Regina English, a Colorado Springs Democrat who also serves on the Harrison School District, said, so these seclusion rooms, it's going to be across the state of Colorado. Well, anyhow, so we got into talking about growing up and how things really worked, and we got some funny email, but this is Dwayne. We'll give him a chance to finish. So you went where to school without, you don't have to name the school, but.
Oh, yes.
But what was it like for you? What was discipline like?
Well, in elementary school, they had a lake outside the school, and they said, don't go near it. And amazingly, we all followed the directions.
Mm.
And being a military family, that was nice. The teachers were wonderful. It was everything 1950s, early 60s. Overseas, I had the instructors, again, you were getting a privileged education because it was kind of like almost a boarding school, but you got to come home. So 3 years of that brought up everything quickly. Then coming back to the United States and going to Oklahoma, it was the Wild West with all the fun and thrills. Miss Foster, she had a heart-shaped paddle, and Mr. Struck had one that was 6 inches across, 17.5 inches long, as he would tell you, with many holes bored into it. And it had a leather handle. And when he was called to take care of discipline, you went home with blisters.
Yeah.
It was absolute abuse. And when Miss Foster did it, I had a predilection to blondes with black high heels, but I don't really want to go into that whole thing now.
No, I'm not quite sure. And, I'm an old guy, so we were disciplined. There was school prayer. We pledged allegiance. All the kinds of things that now seem sort of put out the window, but all of that stuff was in gear. I don't know if education was better or worse, the same, but I hear stories that are just pretty frightening as well. But I went to school with some tough kids.
I believe the education was better because it was more reinforced.
Yeah.
Once Dad retired, we came to Colorado. Oklahoma was, you'd walk out of the school, it was a fashion show.
Mm-hmm.
Here it was jeans and a t-shirt, and you're lucky it was clean.
Yeah.
And as we went through that and lived out in the Black Forest area, and then the high school, you're up on the Air Force Academy, and boy, you didn't want to make a mistake driving on the Air Force Academy. I can tell you that from experience.
It's all true.
And all, but we would bring guns onto the school grounds, even on the academy, for shooting practice and things like that. Back in then, it was the mid-70s.
Sure.
But now Billy, you need to sit down and be quiet, as the kid's jumping off the sides of the building because he's just so wound out on sugar and caffeine. We've lost the schools in a lot of ways, and we need to sit there and come back to how do we get the child to relax, focus, and study harder.
Yeah.
And it's been hard for me because mine is absolutely outrageous, but he has now found Zen. He sits out in the yard, he lets butterflies and the deer come up to him. And I said, why are you doing that? And he goes, I feel happy.
Yeah. Well, breaks my heart that it's that good. I believe me. I just had terrible grades in school, just awful. I hated school, hated high school especially. And thank you, man. That was just a very good car. Thank you so much. Hey, Frank, you're on a radio show, 303-696-1971. Frank, good morning.
Good morning. Glad you had a good, safe trip up
Yeah.
there to Sturgis. And you meet all those guys that have had trials in their life, and they have developed their own internal discipline, I guess, if a bunch of rowdies like that are now peaceful and getting along with each other and having a good time.
Yeah. It's not always, but I never saw the bad stuff.
Hey, I got a personal question for you.
Yeah.
What's the best and worst thing about being post-working years?
Boredom.
Boredom? Well, you got active interest with reading.
Oh, yeah, I got a bunch of different stuff I'm doing, but boredom. Boredom is the number one thing that happens. But I still, do all kinds of stuff, and I got a busy day today, but it feels really good. Get up in the middle of the night, come in. Here's Billy, who's always been my guy, and Kelly Michaels is here, and Tom's here, and of course Mark's here. These are guys I spent 12 years with, so it's good to see everybody in the morning. Yeah,
I think with a real active mind like yours, that boredom issue is especially a thing to deal with. Do you remember an old philosopher named Blaise Pascal?
Well, sure.
He had a saying that said, all man's problems begin when he has to sit quietly in a room alone.
Yeah.
And so then we have to deal with so many things, and you're used to hanging 11 and filling up the time with lots of different stuff. And I'm sure when you change gears and retire or semi-retire, whatever you choose to do. But what's the best thing? Do you have a lot of time on your hands to read? And
I haven't found the best thing yet.
That's a good answer.
I think, being able to ski on Monday and Tuesday when there's nobody there, kinds of stuff like that. But no, I was warned by a number of different people, don't retire. Not because I'm spectacular at the radio, just for your personal sanity, don't retire. And I'm trying to write. When I was a kid, I worked in a steel mill in Pittsburgh, and the union had fought for mandatory retirement at 65, which is a good number. But those old guys would retire, and I think of them as they're much younger than I am now. And about a year would go by, and then you'd see them in the time shack, and they'd be saying hi to you and hi to, all the guys. We're punching out at 4:00 or punching in at 4:00. And then you'd maybe see them in a bar. And then the union would announce that brother fill in the blank from the millwrights or was a plumber or something had passed away. And in many cases, they were possibly 70, less than 70, but they all smoked heavily and drank heavily and, didn't exercise. And they were all, a majority of them were veterans. And then there would be the union would have or their lodge would have a funeral, and guys would stand up and speak for the brother. And that was that. So it was a different era.
What's your mind like when you're on the exercise bike? Where does it go then?
I read. I'm reading this book now called Starkweather, and I've been gone because I've been in Sturgis, so I'll go back to Starkweather.
Is your attention level or ability to process better while you're exercising?
Actually, I can balance books now. I can actually read 3 at a time, and somebody gave me it was True Ire gave me this incredible. It's called The History of Wyoming from Paleo Wyoming to all the scandals and Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. And it's just wonderful. And I love Wyoming. And then I'm reading about Charlie Starkweather. And Starkweather, I don't know if people remember Charlie Starkweather, but he was arrested in Douglas, Wyoming. His killing spree took him on the road, and he killed people with this 14-year-old kid riding with him. And they finally captured him in Douglas, Wyoming. But this history of Wyoming, and like I just finished the chapter on Tom Horn, who was, the regulator. And did he actually kill Willie Nickel? And they don't believe he did. They say he killed other people, but he didn't kill Willie. And the Johnson County Wars, and that's where I am in the book. And it's all good stuff. I mean, you can chase stuff.
Well, we always enjoy your input, and thank you for coming back.
Well, you're kind. I'm just doing the job because I love.
Well, you have a special perspective that nobody else has.
It's because I'm old. Take
well,
care.
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
brother. All right. We go to Tony. Tony, you're on a radio show. Good morning. Thanks for calling in at 16 after 7.
Is this my man Peter Boyle?
It's what's left.
Man, Peter, let me give you your flowers while you're here. When I first came to Colorado, I used to call your show all the time, and you and I had deep talks about doo-wop music, all that kind of stuff.
I do remember you. Hey.
Yeah, Tony from Aurora.
Sure.
And I just want to say, man, I love you. I love you. That Paula said before I came on, you have a unique perspective on things, and it's good to hear your voice in the morning on a Wednesday. I just want to say I love you.
You're back to you, but I'll tell you what, you should read the email because
I don't care about those emails because I know how me and a lot of other people feel about you. Meanwhile, those seclusion rooms are very much needed for today's kids.
Yeah.
Today's kids, they operate from a lost mind, and the lost mind is normal. Like I told you before, people don't understand, but I came up in the music industry, and you know about my family, you know my parents, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, music is very important. When hip hop culture came, grunge, all that kind of goth music, that fueled the kid. You figure the doo-wop kid and the R&B kid is a total different monster than a kid now. These kids are raised by the music industry, not the government. They're raised by the industry, and they're out of their natural mind. I mean, who wants to be a police officer and a teacher now? Forget about it. They're better off driving the bus because they need bus drivers. So instead of being a cop, be a bus driver. Instead of being a teacher, be a bus driver. And then you may not want to be a bus driver because there may not be a school to drive to because these kids are gone. And guess what? Peter? They go home the parents they go home to, or the parent are out of their mind too.
Yeah,
so the teachers got to be the parent, the grandma, the guardian, the cop, the doctor, everything.
I have a dear friend that I don't mention his name on the air because it would jam him up, but he's in charge of some of those, and we have big talks about it. He said, "You have no idea what's waiting out there," and I said, "No." I hope, but the music is reflective. And one of my theories that I've been trying to sell is, like the era of Billy Eckstine and Sinatra, and we just lost Tony Bennett. But what does that give away to? It gives away to Elvis Presley in the beginnings of rock and roll.
That's right.
And that gives away to the Beatles.
Right.
And then what does the Beatles? Who did the Beatles give away to? Billy, you can jump into this. I mean, I don't know where the hair bands fit in. I don't know but the Beatles, after the Beatles, and then heavy protest music, and then we go through the era of disco.
Yeah, you go through Beatles, then you hit the 70s with Zeppelin,
Led Zeppelin and Sabbath and all that. Yeah.
That's the next one. Yeah.
When did the hair bands hit?
Early 80s.
Around the hair bands around 81, 82.
Yep, absolutely right, Tony.
You're talking about like glam rock.
Yeah,
glam rock.
Yeah. White Snake, Great White,
White Snake.
Yeah.
So
that's
then,
right.
Yep.
That's right.
So then because I think that Nirvana comes along.
God, they changed it up, bro. They
all right, now.
They were the beginning of the new change in the early 90s.
Yeah. Now my daughter and I just had this conversation. That gives way to rap. Billy?
Red Hot Chili Peppers, all that.
Yep.
Does it give way to rap?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It does. There are some other offshoots after that, but yeah, rap is the next one that is coming up because of what bands like Beastie Boys, Run DMC had done.
Mhm.
Tribe Called Quest, people like that. Yeah.
No, but Billy, those bands are I'm saying not bands. I'm sorry, rappers. Totally. I hate to call a rapper a musician. I get sick when they do that. But so NWA.
Oh,
NWA
yes.
did and Snoop Dogg too, who's now with Martha Stewart, and I want to vomit when I see that. But
did you?
Yeah, you're right, Tony. Tony, you are 100% right because NWA are the watershed. They and Public Enemy are the guys that really make it. Yeah, you get Flavor Flav, Chuck D, and I got something for you, Tony. I read this weekend talking about Snoop Dogg doing my other gig. So think about this: Snoop Dogg and his wife have been married since '97. One of the strongest relationships. And in fact, they dated, they met in high school and had dated for 10 years. It is a 37-year relationship. And I caught Snoop in an interview this weekend and they're asking him, well, what's the secret? Because you got to ask what's the secret for a long marriage. And he said, we support each other. We let each other follow the other person's dreams and we will make sacrifices so that they can chase what they want. And I'm like, damn, who knew Snoop was so deep? I mean, seriously.
Oh, I think
Billy. Hey, Billy. Yeah. Hey, Billy. Don't believe that. That's just for y'all. That's just for y'all to see. They have don't believe none. Ice Cube been married to his wife for 50 years too.
Yeah.
All those rappers, Luke Skywalker, all those rappers got good wives. What it is, it's an understanding.
Yeah, and Cube is way underrated. Oh man, when he comes out with Cube,
but here, let me come back to the driving force of that. But I believe, to personalize this to talk radio. Talk radio's gone through its hairband, man. It's like it's time for Nirvana to come back into this business and try and at least smooth it out and straighten it out because it's gone too far. It's it's the angry white man presents, and and it's like enough, but you know what, Peter? There's hope, Peter. There's hope. I meet a lot of old school young kids that wear those Jimi Hendrix T-shirts and Bob Marley T-shirts down at the college. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of old school spirit kids out here that want to know about the old school. Praise God for that, man. I meet some. I work with a lot of youth. And a lot of thank God for white kids. Thank God for young white kids, man, because they want to know. You know, a young black kid. And I'm African American, so I can say this, okay? When a young black kid, man, has a long way to go. You talk to a young white kid around 7 years old, they know about Art Blakely, they know about Miles Davis. Yeah, they do.
If you talk to a young black kid about you mentioned Sammy Davis Jr., they don't know who you're talking about. You mentioned Billy Eckstein. I mean, my race needs help, and I'm saying that, and I don't care who get mad. We need extreme because we don't have a sense of history. We don't care.
Yeah, I had an uncle that. Like it was Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. That's who they were, and and he did. I remember one of the LPs that he had was Miles Davis Sketches of Spain, and I'm a kid, and he would play that stuff. And now my dad and mom didn't like that music. They didn't like bebop.
The devil's music. The devil's music.
Well, it was bebop. They just didn't understand bebop, and not that I understood it, but that I listened to it and. But I do think that music, you're absolutely right. Music reflects, it's
the theme of our lives.
But it gives way.
Yeah.
In other words, someone once wrote that the purpose of rock and roll was for young kids to rebel against their parents, and I think there's a lot to that.
The 50s was really big for that.
Oh, the 50s. It did more.
I mean, and that was your time, Peter. You know what I'm talking about.
But it did more. If I don't want to, then I'll give you a last comment. I think that music did more in or for the civil rights struggle.
Yes, sir.
Than
Curtis Mayfield, bro.
Yeah, than Lyndon Johnson, because I got one of my highlights is I got once to speak to Dick Clark, and he had written a book called Rock, Roll, and Remember. And about when they would I later learned when I got into business, they called them package shows. And you would have like all kinds of different you know,
all kind of bands.
Yeah,
like
all
Alpine
kind
Planning Show, all that.
Yeah, right. And oftentimes James Brown's Flames would be the backup band for everybody. But he said
Marvin Whitney.
the first time they went south.
That's right.
And he said, and then he said he remembered when black and white kids danced together in the aisle. And he said, you know, and of course the adults are all upset, but the kids was the music. So I don't know. That's I got to pause.
Peter,
this shows thank you, man. It's wonderful.
Love you, Peter.
Love you.
Take care.
Be safe. We continue in open lines. Talking about school. We got a lot of moments here. Went to school in Tionesta, Pennsylvania. Know where it is. In the mid-'60s. If you didn't get swatted 50 times by Mr. Mooney's rubber paddle in 1 week, you couldn't get in the club. Billy. For people, I'm Mr. Boyles, huge glam rock fan. Here you go. And always made a joke. Glam rock is nihilistic punk rock for pet that can play music and went to a party while they watched the world burn. Ooh, that's intense. Terry in Texas. Do these rooms have windows? My understanding is they do, the seclusion rooms. Billy Thorpe and Peter Boyles on the road together. 710 George coming up here in a little bit. It is going to be a nice day. 83 will be the high, 92 Thursday. Hold on to your hats.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you buy your
Here we go. Good morning, everyone. Came into an opening of a show that now is spread out in so many different directions. That's, again, I always said, talk radio, no man, it's master. On a Wednesday, August the 9th, 2023, it's 7:32. George is scheduled to come back in. I'm Peter Boyles. Good morning, everyone. 83 will be the high, 92 Thursday and Friday, 93 degrees. We go to Kathleen. You waited. Good morning. You're on the air. Thanks.
Your subjects are fascinating. As a white man, you have the luxury of being patriotic and to being nostalgic. I can't think of the word, but you get a tear in your eye when you see the Mount Rushmore. But if you could really put yourself in the place of women, indigenous people, and people of color, would you see Mount Rushmore in a different light?
Yeah, I know the argument, and it's ridiculous for an old white guy to say, well, this is how black people, and I always crack up when I listen to white radio hosts talk about what black people think. I don't, number one, I don't have any position to do it. Number two, I certainly don't have the right to do it. I've understood the argument that there are four heads up there. One was a total imperialist, and that was TR. Two owned and bought and sold human beings, and the other was Abraham Lincoln. So, no, I Kathleen, in all fairness, I understand the argument.
So rather than knocking them down, what about the idea of doing more sculptures like Crazy Horse?
Mm-hmm.
We could do Sarah Barnhart. We could do Dr. Susie in Colorado.
Well, yeah, but I'll tell you something. I was taken. I've never been to I've seen Crazy Horse from the road for 25 years. We went to see Crazy Horse with a group of friends. And there's a museum, and there's, all kinds of stuff that goes on. And, no one knows where he's buried. I had to, in my reading, but he's pointing to the land that was stolen from them. And it's legit. I mean, I couldn't argue against you, except Rushmore should stay, because those men also did other things that were just as important. I mean, the Jefferson is brilliant. He keeps it together. Washington wins the military part of the war to break from the British. So we're not a colony. TR's TR. And of course, the great emancipator, Abraham Lincoln. Like all of us, myself perhaps more than anyone else, we all have a feet of clay. None of us can go through life and say, wow, we were 100% on the money.
You're in a position to change that. You have so much influence over so many people. If you could perhaps go in a different direction, maybe veer into the changes that we could make.
But I don't feel that way about Rushmore. I mean, I understand the argument, but I don't feel that way. What I see is you have to be careful with history. And because I'm like I love to read history and understand it. You have to be careful, because so many other regimes, the first thing they do, Lenin's wife, Kapushka, was in charge. I mean, the Nazis got in charge of the history. What I like now, and it makes a lot of people crazy, is the revisiting, and like the stuff in Florida right now. I think DeSantis is wrong. I think that the chips have to fall. The chips have to fall as they may, with in history, and history can be rewritten. That's why, if you have a history degree, and I do, it's an art. I have an arts degree. I don't have a science degree. History is not a science. And so I have a BA. I have a Bachelor of Arts, because you can interpret history so many different ways. Now, math or science is pretty much just one way. So I'm as an old guy, I can see. I remember, and we've talked about it. I fought as a kid, and used to walk in a place called Oakland, and there was a statue of Stephen Foster. And Stephen Foster, all of those post-antebellum songs, including the song that they sing at the Kentucky Derby. And he was a bronze, and at his feet was a black man. It was a statue of a black man, or he was carved into it. And they've removed it. It's been taken out of Pittsburgh or taken away. And I wonder, it was because when you start to clean things up, and the Bolsheviks did it, there would be people that would appear in pictures that suddenly they'd be out of the picture, or the Nazis were they were the best at it. But again, things like Admiral Byrd going to the North Pole, or Hillary going to the top of Everest, and they always said they went alone. Well, Paul he takes a black man with him. And so, in essence, he's alone because the black guy doesn't count. And that's the kind of stuff that's like, we got to change that.
Right, and that's the thing I'm speaking of, the people who don't count, the women who don't count, the women who've been invisible throughout history. If you could find those women and bring them to the surface and into the light, I don't think that the other things, that the statues of the men in Mount Rushmore, they won't become irrelevant, but perhaps we could make something that is equal to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. There was a book I read thousands of years ago, and it's called. The title of the book was "Anonymous Was a Woman." That if you saw art that said anonymous on it, 9 out of, and not all art is for framing, different things, quilting, and a thousand different things. But the title of the book was "Anonymous Was a Woman." It was a history book. And that chances were real good if it said anonymous, a woman, or perhaps a minority, made, did, or functioned the art. And it was
the same with anything that with the first two initials before the last name.
Yes,
probably a woman.
Probably was a woman. Yeah, and I think that people are coming to terms with that. I know that the history book, and I was a kid. I barely got out of high school. I mean, I probably shouldn't have gotten out, but I could read. And I just visited Little Bighorn with my friends and George Armstrong Custer was a hero. When I'm a kid, man, George Custer was a hero. And one of the bars my dad drank in had that picture, and Budweiser put it out. And he's standing, he's got his revolver out, and he's got buckskin on, long blonde hair, and he's pulling the trigger. None of that's true. And then he goes in the 60s and he becomes a bad guy. And now here we are, 2023. And my sense of George Custer, he's a dupe. He got his men killed. He was very brave, but he certainly, was he a hero? No, not really. Not really. But he also, look at how he's changed. He's changed, in my mind, from the Errol Flynn George Custer who died with his boots on, to the George Custer of D. Brown, Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, to a guy who I now know that the government needed money. It was after the American Civil War. Country's in great trouble. Gold is discovered. U.S. Grant tells Phil Sheridan, we got to take it back and we got to do it. And he sends a guy who is just chomping to get back, to get attention, to get back in the limelight. He had been out of the Army for a couple of years. He wasn't the star that he had been. So he takes this opportunity and he rides to death, and he takes the men with him. So I don't know.
I think you're stuck.
Yeah, sure. But I think
you can get out of that.
No, but I think that's the mark of trying to wade through to seek the truth about something. This is, and I was, like I said, there's a museum at Crazy Horse that has stuff from the Custer battlefield, because Crazy Horse was there at the battlefield, but no one knows where Crazy Horse is buried, and probably never will know. But he was murdered. He was murdered. Crazy Horse was murdered.
And most of the living indigenous people now are descendants from women who were raped by white men. You know,
I've never heard that, but I do know that there were. It was just, it's what the Russians did when they got into Berlin. It's, it's like this pattern that repeats itself again and again and again and again. The story doesn't, the players change, but the story doesn't change. Love your call. It's a good call. Thank you. All right. Billy just said break, and we break. The Brauchler Boyles connection continues.
Boom.
Good morning. It is 7:10 KNUS on a Wednesday morning. George is here, August the 9th, 2023. Peter Boyles, Brauchler together again. And it is time. Actually, I spoke with Gabe yesterday.
What?
Oh, yeah, because the guys at Alpine are my retirement managers.
Oh,
and,
man, are you lucky?
No, listen,
I mean that you have money for retirement.
well, yeah, but it's an age thing. But this young man is special, and I will turn it over to you. But hey, Gabe, thanks for what you did yesterday, man. That was very cool. So George is here.
Gabe, if you have the account and routing numbers for Pete's account, you and I can have a separate conversation off air. I don't know how that works, but help me.
Call me offline. This is far too much testosterone for one market update.
What do you got going on? Are we in the green? Please tell me we're in the green.
The Dow's in the green, so the Dow is still rolling, sir. But we do have mixed markets this morning. Currently have the Dow up 17 points. The S&P is off 4, so essentially flat. As I said, the Nasdaq is down a little bit more, 60 points, which is 0.4%. But what you guys have seen, George, this August is a little bit more volatility than we've been used to the last 5 months. And I think that's actually natural given how high the market has run up this year. I think, we've been talking about the soft landing and recession fears have abated a little bit. But I think this month of August, you've gotten a little bit of news, not only with some credit decreases, both for the U.S. government and regional banks, some bad news out of China. There's just a lot of things right now that I think just naturally that the market's taking a little bit of a breather, and frankly, we think it's a little bit healthy with the big run up that we've had.
Can I ask you a couple questions in the Stump the Gabe section of the Alpine Planning part? Here we go. You mentioned
I thought I was just going to be easy breezy with Pete.
No,
Of course. Go ahead, sir.
You mentioned China. They've slipped into deflation. First off, tell folks what that means, and what do you think it's a big risk for the global economy and its impact on us, or is this like a passing thing?
No, well, so just quickly, yeah, deflation is just the opposite of inflation, where the price of goods and services actually goes down year over year, and the reason that is bad for an economy is an economy in a deflationary situation can't grow, right? And historically, China, whether you believe their GDP numbers or not, that's a debate for a different day. They've always been a higher growth economy relative to the U.S. because they're in a different part of their economic cycle, right? So generally, they've been in the high single digits as far as GDP growth, but obviously with the situation in COVID and whatnot, them being not growing is actually a pretty tough spot, considering that they're the second biggest GDP in the world. They're a huge manufacturer for a lot of other countries. And obviously, I think with a lot of reshoring and repatriation that we've done here in the United States and elsewhere in the world, it's not as big of a deal. But when you have the second largest country in the world, or the second largest GDP in the world not growing, that's obviously going to have ripples across the entire global economy.
Another question, man. You mentioned the bank thing, and there's some bond market activity that maybe that portends something bad for banks. What are your thoughts on that?
So I do think that there is a little bit of just, slow to react, if you will, from the whole SVB, Signature Bank, those type of situations. Now, I think it can cause a little bit of contagion, just the headline itself in fixed income market. But I think ultimately, right, when Brian, Amy, and I, or some of our money managers are buying fixed income securities, you really have to do your due diligence on what the underlying bond is. And so I would encourage investors to look what they have in their portfolio. Because I think that the other thing is how much fixed income has changed last year and now this year. It is an opportunity for investors to not only make sure their securities are shored up, but you can also find some great buys right now when there is a little bit of volatility in the fixed income market.
Finally, name the only MLB division where you can be 4 games above 500 and yet be hovering near the basement of your division.
Yeah, the Mariners have been the best team in baseball since the start of July. But we do have a 3-game show coming up with Baltimore here, George.
Oh, buddy, what's up with Baltimore? Who saw that coming?
One of the lowest payrolls, and the other part of it, they have a great farm system. So if I was, a Yankees, Red Sox fan, and I just hated my life, I would probably be pretty worried for the next decade or so.
Billy Thorpe's given me the one finger. I think it means it's either half the peace sign or you go 1 minute left.
Gabe, I want to talk to you about baseball all day long. Unfortunately, I think we're required by the FCC and the SEC to say things like Alpine Planning Group is a comprehensive financial planning firm committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing, it's a matter of trust. They're prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918, 303-843-0918. Go Yanks.
Okay. Gabe, thanks, son, for yesterday. Thank you for yesterday.
We all know Billy is the alpha male among us.
It truly is.
There it is with his snake.
Thanks, son.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
It's all yours. I'll see everybody Saturday morning at 9. And now the Brauchler Show.
I wanted to do something new. We're going to talk Sturgis. I'm going to have Steve Reams on. No, wait, no, that way
you can get him.
I'm kidding. Man, I can't thank you enough for doing this. You made this morning special for me, Pete, so I could go take my son to school. That was fantastic.
You're a good dad. Thanks, Billy T. I'll see everybody on Saturday at 9. The Brauchler Show. I'm Peter Boyles. Thanks for listening.
Well, happy Wednesday. It's hump day, August the 9th, 2023. Thanks to Pete Boyles. I told him in here in person. I'll say it on the air. Thanks, Pete, for allowing me to have a very special morning. I was able to drop off Grammy to his first day of 8th grade. Just such a great kid. I can't describe it. I mean, it's just the summer zipped by so quickly, and I can't really account for all the days. I know there was a lot of traveling there, and I know that I did the show from a bunch of different places, and I remember we did a bunch of baseball and we did all this, but it seems like it was 10 seconds ago. It was middle May, and we were talking about, hey, almost having 3 months of summer, and now he's in school. And this weekend, T and I will go up to CSU on Saturday to kind of prep the battlefield for his room, and got to get a couple of the big items moved in there. But then next week, he and Mom go up there and do the orientation thing while I'm down here with you guys, and set up his dorm, and then it's off to the races, man. And Manda leaves a week from Friday. The chances of getting her on the radio seem like it's like asking her to produce gold or get up before noon. I mean, it feels like it's almost impossible. But so a week from Friday, she's gone to the UAE. Jeffy comes back from South Korea, I don't know, midnight this Saturday, and then he's already in school. He's missing 3 days. I'm like, what happened? Where did it all go? But it was great driving in today to drop him off at the Great Rocky Heights Middle School, and to have Jeff. I didn't see this coming. Jeff called us from Korea, and he was on a bus heading back to Camp Humphreys. And he's out there for the World Scout Jamboree, and it imploded because of some typhoon that's coming in to wreck the area that has been pre-designated as a rice paddy or a rice field when they're done. And he called in to have a conversation with Grammy before he started school. I don't know. It just made me feel good that his bigger brother would do that. And then last night, Trey had some friends over after they went to go see The Meg 2. Now, of all the movies to see with your buddies on a birthday, and these are all guys that graduated Rock Canyon in May, so they're all going to scatter to the wind. One of them's going to CU Boulder. One of them's going to DU. DU doesn't even start school till September. One of them's going off to his mission. Still doesn't know where he's going to go. And so I threw out there Detroit. I'm like, is that a place? Is it a Cleveland? Is it that kind of thing? Or do you get to go someplace super awesome? He said one of the people in his church recently was sent to the Marshall Islands. And I thought, holy remote. I mean, unless you can hop over to Australia, gadzooks. But this is the last time they're really going to be able to get together. They're big fans of this game called Catan, Catan. And we played that a little bit, but they went to go see Meg 2 in part because Meg 1, which was just called Meg, came out on Trey's birthday a couple years ago, and they went and saw it. And so they were like, let's do it again. They came over and played Catan, then sat on the couch and watched a show. I don't know the name of it, folks, but picture Top Chef or Hell's Kitchen, but for swords. I'm not kidding. I swear to you, there is a show out there where they bring in dudes, and it's all dudes, to make different cutting implements. Like they're making a dagger, and it's the exact same setting. They have the judges. Instead of them dipping down and tasting it and saying, I taste too much walnut or something like that, they're like, let's see if this will cut through this human silhouette. I swear to God, I'm watching this thing and I'm like, what in the hell is this? And I'm like, you know what? On second thought, Dad's just going to watch for a little bit, and then I'm going to go back into the bedroom. You guys have your fun. Sometime around 10 p.m., and Graham's got to go down, right? Making sure he's in bed. These guys graduate from the TV back to the table to play Catan for some epic thing. I woke up to them screaming. I didn't know Catan was a screaming game, Billy, but
yes, it is.
At one point there was screaming, and I looked at my watch and I'm like, my God, it's like 12:30 in the morning. I'm like, what is going on with this thing? So it was an epic night for them. And
do you play the Catan with kids?
I've played Catan twice.
Yeah.
Is it Catan?
Yeah,
Am I
Catan.
saying it right?
Yeah, it's Catan. Yeah.
I've played it before with the kids twice. I'm not gifted at it. There are certain strategies I haven't picked up on yet they're like,
what is your strategy? What are your strategies?
I want to win, but as you know, there's a couple things going on here. When you grew up the way I did and you started to realize that effort wasn't always necessary to win, what you realized is if you all start on the same start line, but the guys next to you all fall down, you win, right?
Yes,
so
yes.
I'm trying to scuttle the kids while I'm trying to grow my empire so I can get wood and whatever, plastic or whatever the other elements are. But these guys have it down to a real science. Like they are thumping each other at this. There's a little bit of luck in there too, but
yeah, you've got to decide. There are a couple of really things as far as Catan that you've got to look at, and they're really two stronger overarching strategies. And it's either corner the market on one resource and use that to trade, or protect yourself by making sure that you can generate enough of the resources around the rest of the board. So tactically, you have to figure out where you want to place your little cities in order to make sure what resources you can generate. And even then, it depends on those two strategies. The dice will screw you. There are going to be times where if you corner wood and then you don't roll wood for a long time, you are in trouble. You are the poorest of the poor, and nobody cares about you.
It's awkward too if you're not a game player and you hear them yell out sometime around midnight, "Why won't you take my wood?" Or
that is fantastic.
"Why won't you take my 3 sheep? I've got, how about 4 sheep or something?" And I'm like, what is going on?
That brings back some very uncomfortable memories from high school, but that's a totally different subject.
I heard you guys talking to the 6 o'clock about detention and whatnot. By the way, I love our listeners, especially the ones that engage us with the text at 710 KNUS and 710 KNUS, the app. Forged in Fire is the name of the show. It is the actual name of the show.
Nice.
And they make different cutting implements, swords and daggers, and some sort of stabbing thing that would go on the horns of some kind of an elephant or mastodon in battle. They have a thing. They stack 4 watermelon on top of each other, and they have this cutting thing, and it's set up so that it drops straight down, and then they see if it can cut through all 4 watermelons. And
now,
I don't know
the payoff. That I would watch the show just to see that.
I'm telling you, man, it was like compelling, but I'm like, I can't believe there's a show like this. So I'm watching this thing happen. And then unlike the judges that sit around and they taste things and they're like, your flan is flat or something like that. Or, you know what? You didn't use any bacon. That was part of it.
Way too much cumin.
Way too much cumin. I don't know what the standard is here because both of these things cut through all the watermelon. And the guy stands up there and he looks, and these dudes, they film them doing things like putting on their goggles for protection. And then and these 2 dudes are dork central. I mean, and I mean that in the most loving way, nerd central on the cutting stuff. And the guy walks up and he has his hands behind his back and he goes, "Both of you did very well today, but the winner is," and they do that Top Chef kind of, and you're like, "Jeremy." He's like, "I'm sorry, Eddie, this is the end for you. Please walk off the stage." And it's like, good Lord. Like, are they going to cut him down with his own sword?
Yeah, that I would have thought that would be the way to end it. And you, sir, are the loser.
That would make must-see TV
yes,
there.
Would.
If the cost of losing was your life or a limb.
Yeah, exactly.
That could be something. But then the kid wins, and they must have to cajole him into doing this because then there's that cutaway shot where they must be like, "Hey, what's it like to win? How do you feel?" And he must have said something like, "Pretty good." Because then they have the shot where it looks like this forced. He throws his hands up and kind of goes, "Yeah." And it's like, man, oh my good God, man.
You've never done that in your life.
They
watched these guys.
2 shows of this, and then they went back to Catan until like the early morning hours.
Nice.
And by the way, Dad loved it. I mean, I loved it. I'm like, I love the friends getting together for that last, and this is the thing that happens. You graduate high school and you tell each other, we're going to stay in touch. We're going to get together over our breaks.
Yeah, no.
Maybe it happens the first time. Maybe you see each other over Christmas. And maybe this generation's better at it than I was. Or I don't know how it was with you. But other than your besties, man, you lose touch. Like we were the 3 amigos at Bear Creek, Johnny O. Askin and Corey Rickman and me. And we were inseparable. And I got to say, I don't think I've seen Johnny O in 30 years.
Wow.
I mean, 30 years.
Jeez.
Corey, I did, but we ended up being roommates in college too, and all that other stuff.
And so, he needed bail money.
And he needed bail money. But it's just one of those things where for these guys, I hope for the best,
Yeah.
And
I got 2 things for you.
Yeah.
For the gaming.
On air,
so if they like,
hopefully.
if they like the Catan, I got 2 games you need to try then.
Mm-hmm.
First one is the, what is it? The House on Haunted Hill.
House on Haunted
Gotta
Hill.
try
I'm
that
writing
one.
it down.
Yeah. And then the other one that is the most uncomfortable board game name in the entire universe, but one of the absolute best possible games ever to play with friends and family. Secret Hitler.
Oh my good God.
Fantastic game.
Secret Hitler.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say Exploding Kittens.
Fantastic. No, Secret Hitler has all of them beat. That is a wonderful, wonderful game. And again, it's about lying to your friends and your family. It is very, very, very fun.
I love the fact that it's board games too. That they're out there not sitting in front of a TV doing the Xbox. Man, that I was so thrilled with that. And maybe these will help us get that done too. I'm going to have to check that out with the boys.
The Secret Hitler is the one that I would, House on Haunted Hill is a longer play. Secret Hitler is quicker. And Secret Hitler, for my money, is a lot more interactive and a lot more fun, and the game's quicker. But if they like the Catan and the long drawn out kind of strategy, House on Haunted Hill is fantastic because it is 2 games in one. The idea and the premise of House on Haunted Hill is that you are exploring with your buddies a haunted house. And so you're walking around this house and you're unveiling different rooms, and the rooms are always different because of how the tiles unfold onto the field, just like the Catan island is always different. And then half of the way through, once you've discovered enough of the curses, then the game changes, and it's revealed that one member of your party has actually diabolically lured you there to murder all of you. And there are 40 different scenarios of how that is going to happen. It could be everything from vampires to werewolves to mind control to paintings that suck up your soul.
Talking about?
Yeah. So the idea is you're a group for the first half of the game, and then the game changes, and then it's one side against this one person that's trying to kill the rest of you. And it's very fun. It's a really neat shuffling, and you have no idea even when you're playing the game, the first half of it, nobody has any idea who the betrayer is, because certain things need to happen.
Betrayer?
Yeah. And then certain things have to happen, and then it is triggered. And then the betrayal becomes evident, and you go ahead and you get 2 different books, and it tells you what the scenario is.
Is the betrayer named Mark Meadows?
No, it isn't. And then
somebody else?
Secret Hitler is fantastic because you always have that question of how exactly do you have someone like Hitler rise to power in Germany? Well, what is the functionality of that? And so it is a game about 2 different political groups that one of them is trying to find out who the fascists are, and the fascists are trying to bring Hitler to power. And what do you do in order to further that? And it seems like it'd be a hard game to play, but once you understand that turns
and borderline anti-Semitic.
Well, the thing is, about 35, 40 seconds a turn. It moves very quickly once you get the rhythm. Once you get it, it is a very quick play, and you will say things to your friends and your beloved family members that you normally wouldn't say in public. And it is very, very fun. And I have one person in my family that is remarkably good at it, and it worries me because she's a very talented liar. Very talented. My youngest daughter, phenomenally talented.
I wonder where she gets that.
Yeah, she is. Oh, she is phenomenally talented at it. Yeah. So but that is Secret Hitler's fantastic. Worth double the price that you pay for it.
Really?
Oh yeah,
buddy, I love that. Your kids, have they started up school?
Not yet. We did the registration thing last Friday for the youngest, who's headed off to be a freshman, and then the senior has her first day Wednesday or Thursday next week. And I think
next week.
And I think the freshman goes late next week. I don't remember what the day is that she goes, but Monday. Oh yeah, and I may or may not be here on Monday. We'll have to see.
You can't pull me.
One of my Spencer's going back to CSU, so I got to take him up there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
But they make him come up to school like a week beforehand, which just seems stupid.
Well, okay, I get it for freshman.
Yeah.
So they've got all that move-in orientation stuff like that. But I don't get why if you're an experienced Ram.
I do not understand that at all. But yeah, he's going to go up there. But it has been a challenge this summer because, there are certain companies that are customer-based and other companies that are sales-based. It is obvious that CSU is sales-based.
What?
Not customer-based.
Really?
Yeah, just based on interactions, and it just
you
can
tell
see
me
that.
This after Trey commits. Thank you.
Hey, I've already paid a lot of. I've sent them 3 gigantic checks already. So, okay, that's another. I had a moment there. The issue being that we had some problems with registration and with room assignments and where we're going to be living, and they don't care.
What?
They don't care a lot. I mean, you can navigate through the system if you understand what you're doing, but they're much more about making sure you're coming and you're going to be here in the classes and everything else, and the check clears. Yeah, the idea that maybe you do not have somewhere to sleep doesn't worry them as much as it worries you. They are not concerned about that at all.
I'm super hopeful that they're interested in getting the Army's money from the GI Bill, because that is that's a big helper when it comes to paying for college.
And the fact that
CSU's $30,000 a year, buddy.
Yeah, which is stupid. That is stupid.
And by the way, because Amanda refuses to drop out of college despite all of my best efforts.
Yeah. You got to try harder.
That school, with the ridiculous academic benefits she gets, it's still $60,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, I've got simple public school math skills. 60 plus 30 is 90. Where are we? And that's post-tax dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Where am I getting an extra $120 or so, $130,000 in my life?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at that with Katie hitting college next year. I have no idea where that extra money is going to come from. And here's the thing that I've got. Okay, let's just sidetrack here for a sec. When you're getting those little college letters, when they get the little postcards and stuff like that, one of the things that annoys the heck out of me, is a vast majority of them will advertise either on the cover or the first page what percentage of their student body receives financial aid. And they think that's a positive. Look, 93% of our student body receives financial aid. Aren't we great? Smile. No, you suck. If I walked into a restaurant and the owner of the restaurant said, 97% of the people that walk through this restaurant can't pay for the meal, I think you got a problem. I think we got to talk about what's going on here as far as your business model. But no, they use it as an advertising gimmick that the vast majority of people, overwhelming number of people that go to that school, can't afford to pay the bills. That's a problem. That's not the marketing stance that you really think it is, colleges. That's not strong. That's not telling me that, wow, this is a great choice. When those things stand that 93% of our student body receives financial aid. Oh, so you're telling me I can't afford it? I mean, it is ridiculous. I do not know what happened to our brains and how we broke the model, but that is stupid. If you're running any sort of a business, if you had an apartment building and 97% of your tenants needed rent support, you got a problem. You're not running your business properly. This is an issue. People. Okay, I'm going to get down off my
buddy. That's just, it's nuts. First off, the first day thing, even though it's not his first day in school, it does take me back a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, how was it? Because it was first day. It was 8th grade, wasn't it, today?
First day, which is his last year of middle school. He's going to go next year. He and Jeffy will be in high school together, and then it's just the slow march to kids are all off doing stuff, and we stop making babies. So it's like I'm running out of kids. I mean, and that turns out to be the thing that I'm going to miss the most, man. It's just having them around. I got to figure out what the hell to do. Maybe then I'll have more time to earn more money to pay for the college.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And on the email thing you sent me, nothing came through.
Well, there's another one. I sent another one.
Oh, good. Thank you.
So the second one, I hope to God it came through. It's with a mail drop link.
Oh, good.
But I've been dropping them off at school, as we trade who does what for years. And every time I've dropped them off, from the first time I dropped off Amanda at Platte River to today, right as they get out of the car, every time I tell them, go do great things.
Yeah, I like that.
And then I roll down my window. As when you're 13, you're very socially conscious at that point. And as Graham gets out and gets to the little crosswalk there with all the other kids getting ready to cross the street with the help of the adult guy with the stop sign, there's Dad, a little tear in his eye, yelling at the top of his lungs, "I love you, Graham. Daddy loves you. Daddy's so proud of you." And so everybody is turning around to look, and Graham's looking at me smiling like, "Oh, my dear God, please." And I'm like, "I love you, Graham. I love you. Daddy loves you. Daddy's so proud of you." You can imagine a 13-year-old boy, first day of school, thinking, what have I done? The one last thing, the boys from the baseball team got together yesterday, and they did zip lining out at Philip K. Miller Park down there in Castle Rock.
Nice.
Great zip lining. And one of the moms comes up to me when I go to pick up Graham from their neighborhood pool yesterday. And she says, "Well, it is pretty clear that Graham has your sense of humor, because at one point while we're getting direction from the nice woman who's showing us how to do the zip lining, she's like, listen, this is how you break, because there could be at the top of these tall ones some really, strong winds." And then Graham interrupts and says, "But can we break wind?" And the woman just looks at him and goes, "Sure." And Tracy, the mom, goes, my God, it's you.
That is fantastic.
I said, I'm so sorry. I looked at Grammys in the pool. I said, it is a blessing and a curse, son. You will be haunted by that.
Yes.
The inability to control it is the worst part, right?
Yes,
it's like
it is. Oh,
it's
I
like
salute
having
you.
laser eyes, but you
Yes.
have to have the special. Except there's no special glasses
No
for these
special
lasers.
glasses.
They just
No.
come out at the worst times.
Oh, I did that. I had an experience recently because we do the with the funny stuff in the morning. When you're doing You Choose the News, I do the inventing of the advertisers, and normally that is a brainstorm session with the family that we goof around and we just I throw out ideas. And last time we were doing one, my senior in high school turned to her youngest sister and said, in any other household, that would be a very weird and awkward question. But nope, not here.
No.
Yeah. And the other one is people ask it. People ask me sometimes, how do you choose the advertisers? And what do you do with those advertisers when you choose the news? Like, well, normally when we're brainstorming, and this happened last time, when, again, my senior in high school turns to me very loudly. He goes, "Oh my God, what is wrong with you?" I'm like, circle
there's
that
one.
one. We got to put a star next to that
That's
one.
for Thursday.
Yes, that is a keeper. That's how we choose the advertisers when that happens in the household. Yes, that is how it goes.
Billy, we have 6 o'clock to the 8 o'clock
We have.
hour.
Congratulations.
Here,
High five.
We're running up on this. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to send us off to the Thorpe Report and You Choose the News. We're going to continue to talk. Listen, there's a bunch of stuff going on in the news, and I'm happy to talk to you about a column I'm writing for the Gazette about the DJT and the upcoming trial and all that stuff. Just some thoughts I have on it. But I'm happy to take calls, man, on this first day of school about your memories of school. I listened to Pete and Billy wax sentimental about borderline beatings that they would have received in the 6 o'clock hour in their schools. I know Billy's telling the truth because he and I spent some time at the same high school, and corporal punishment, it's redundant. It was just punishment. There was no need to throw the word corporal in front of it. It was the only punishment. So I know that that's true, and I don't need to talk about just those things, but just it's making me sentimental about some of the things that went on in high school, and I'm happy to entertain your best stories about them, especially if it's a first day story. Give me a call, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. You can hit the text to the Forged in Fire stuff. I love you listeners because two people instantly within a second were like, Forged in Fire, Forged. I'm like, oh my God, you watched the show. Speaking of something forged in fire, and yet it's really forged in granite. How's that for a segue? Bam. A lot of people would pay good money to have that kind of a smooth segue. Listen, our buddy Mitch Floria has been doing the art of granite, and it's really forged in customer service. This guy does the handshake thing. This is the guy that begs you to come into his showroom at the corner of about Colfax and 6th to see the kinds of wizardry that he has been able, art that he's been able to put together with granite, marble, quartz, you name it. If you can make a countertop for your kitchen or master bathroom out of it, man, this guy can do it. He wants you to come in and meet with him because there's some magic going on there. I don't know if it's hypnosis or something, but people that go and talk to Mitch close the deal with Mitch. And I think that's a testament to him because you just trust him. You look at the work he's done. You listen to the rave reviews he has from past customers and you think, why not me? Why shouldn't I be the one to benefit from more than just the wholesale prices he passes on to you? Here's the deal. He loves 710 listeners. If you tell him you're a 710 listener, a George listener, this guy will throw in the bathroom countertop for free with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing the one room, man, he'll throw in the sink for free. Give him a call, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919, or put these four little words together in front of a .com, The Art of Granite, theartofgranite.com. When we come back, you, me, Billy, the memories, George Brauchler, 710, KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Really just reproduced what would have taken place between 6:03 and 6:33. I mean, sadly, on any other morning, it's just part of the natural stretching warm-up routine for the show. But I'll be honest, I'm still thinking about the high school stuff, and we were talking off air. Pete, I think, had been talking about when he had to take the horse and buggy to high school, and the long ride and the cold and what it was like.
And it was uphill both ways.
It was uphill both ways. He grew up Amish. I don't know if he's ever conceded that to anybody before they moved to the steel town. It was Amish. But I'm looking back at the high school stuff and first day memories. I mean, I remember.
Yeah. Do you remember your first day of high school? What was it like?
I just remember the feeling. I don't remember anything special about any of the first days other than that sense of newness, little bit of nerves, but you get in there and you're optimistic and you want to get a good seat, right? Like are you going to a class where they're going to assign seats, or are you going to get to sit with your bro? And then you're like, in my mind, and this was true all the way through law school, I can now be a good student, right? Like I've got the other stuff. I've got that last junior year is in the rear view mirror. I can now knuckle down and really pay attention and get the grades that are irrelevant to admission in college right now in my senior year. And that kind of newness lasts a day or two. And then I just become the guy that I've always been. And that is, how can I make people laugh? How can I distract? And when will this class be over?
Jeez, I walked into high school the very first day and knew, well, I had some friends because we had soccer practice for the 2 weeks before that. So I knew some of the people on the team, but they weren't necessarily friends. The only person that I would consider a friend in the entire high school was my cousin, who I'd known since I was 5. So that's the only person. So I was a loner at the beginning of high school. I was out there
at Mullen?
I had nobody to hang out with at lunch. I had nobody. And then again, I had some people that I could, talk to at least because of the shared experience of the previous 2 weeks of getting yelled at during soccer practice, which was great.
Yeah, that's good.
I knew nobody that I'd gone to school with and that was interesting. That was definitely one of those moments where you're like,
but my guess is that's why you are the best politician that never ran for office. Like you were talking about going to that concert the other day, and pretty soon,
I just go talk to people
in between bong hits, you're, yapping it up with everybody in 2 rows. My guess is that's part of it, because that's what happened to me too. I went to Belmar Elementary out there off of Garrison, 855 South Garrison. I can't believe I know the address. And all of those kids matriculated on to either Creighton or O'Connell. And I think O'Connell doesn't exist anymore, junior highs. And I didn't. My folks ended up saying, hey, why don't we just send you to the junior high nearby the school? We'd moved when I was in first or second grade and just kept going to Belmar, great school. And then I ended up going to Carmody. Same thing, Billy. When I showed up there, I knew nobody.
Yeah, I had to say, I went through four schools between kindergarten and 8th grade. So I jumped
Court
regularly.
Orders or voluntarily?
Well, I don't know. It's a statute
mean, like
limitations.
expulsions led to these transfers?
Just moving based on education opportunities and other things. In 3rd grade, the Archdiocese closed my school. It's now open again. If anybody knows Good Shepherd down there off of 6th.
I know a couple of them.
Yeah, no, the Archdiocese school is Good Shepherd. If you go and you stand in front of that school and you look above the door, it says St. John's, because that was the original school. It was originally St. John's. So that's when I was there.
Did they close it because of the wart?
They closed it, yes, because of it was. Nope. Okay, I can't say that one out loud. No, no, that's bad. It had to do with just they closed down 2 different schools because of lack of enrollment. And that was fine. So that was the one that was closed down, but I jumped schools other places. So I had that experience of walking in, not knowing anybody, and not giving a damn.
4 times. See, that has to force you. You either become Ted Kaczynski or you become Billy Thorpe. And again, I'm not sure there isn't some overlap.
Yeah, I'm not sure there isn't. The Venn diagram might be a circle.
It's an ellipse.
Yes.
Listen, here's a text, and you can do it at 710knus.com or the app. I remember my first day of junior high school. I was just 11, which says that person must be a genius.
Yeah.
I wore my new outfit ordered from Sears, a white and yellow wide striped shirt and matching yellow pants. Unfortunately, a certain first-time female event happened. I was so naive. I had no idea what was going on. I thought maybe I'd injured myself on my bike seat.
Oh,
Sweet
no.
mother of God.
Oh, that
Yeah.
is awful.
But the text ends with, I survived.
Okay, good.
So, I mean, that's a good
yeah.
one. But holy smokes. I can't remember the specific first day other than the nerves. And then, of course, I leave Carmody. It may still be. Carmody was a junior high, not a middle school. So it's only 7th and 8th grade. All of those kids went on to Bear Creek High School. I didn't. I went to Mullen for a year and a half before a whole bunch of things I've talked about on the radio happened. None of them disciplinary. And then I transferred to Bear Creek. And so even though I recognized those kids from when they were younger and smaller, it was still, there was just newness there. Like, I don't know, man. It's weird to be in school in those ages where you're self-aware, you understand society, and at least in that setting, you're not really part of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're kind of on the outside.
Yeah. And I was on the outside for quite a bit. And it was one of those things that probably forged my weirdness and my personality because, and even.
Did you have a pet snake back then? Was that your friend?
Yeah, I did. As a teenager. And again, I love my mom, but I have to blame her for this reptile thing. Every time she's like, I can't believe you have all these snakes.
Yeah.
Like, it's your fault in part because I was not allowed to have the puppies and the kitties growing up. She didn't want to have those in the house. That's okay.
Because they can't choke you.
Fine. Yeah. And so I went to reptiles. So at one point I had 3 snakes, an iguana, a salamander.
Oh my good,
and a turtle.
Gravy, buddy.
Yeah. So I mean, I had a lot of reptiles, and that was part of it. So that's what started.
Must have made you super popular in that part of the biology class where they were talking about amphibians and reptiles.
Yeah.
And they're like, Billy or Mr. Thorpe, and
well,
let me tell you,
and I, we were
salamander tastes like not chicken. I'll tell you that.
No, not at all. Yeah. But it was interesting that, I already had a lot of that down as far as some of the biology things and science. But I walked in, I can remember each and every one of my first days at each one of those schools and that nervousness, etc. But it also created a callousness. And some of the listeners will know this intimately, that I don't care what you think of me. And that's what I had to, that's what I had to get to.
Do we have the prime clip? Remember that clip
let me pull that. Hang on.
Yeah, so this is a great segue. There's really no structure to this conversation, so I'd love for you to be a part of it. But there was a social media clip of a press conference done with Coach Prime, and there was a question asked of him. I think we have the question. We don't have the question.
No, I don't have the question.
But
I got the answer.
The question in essence was about Coach Prime, like, hey, when you were a player or you had ever done this, and it was very personal to Deion Sanders, to Coach Prime. And it was very much like the criticism and the scrutiny and all this other stuff. And Coach Prime had an answer. You're going to hear it here in a second. I shared it with the kids and I shared it on Twitter because I thought this resonates with exactly what Billy was saying right here. Fire that thing up.
Look at me. What about me would make you think that I care about your opinion of me? Your opinion of me is not the opinion that I have of myself. You ain't make me, so you can't break me. You didn't build me, so you can't kill me. You know what? God established me. So you ain't nothing you can do to me. I've been dealing with this foolishness since Pee Wee football, man. I've been him. I've been a difference maker, a game changer. I've been that guy. So what will change now that I'm coaching? Not a darn thing. I'm not even playing the game, and you got an opinion of me. I'm not even on the field. But I'm pretty sure I get every darn coach I'm playing against, head coaches, and anything you want to do. But I love it, but I don't care. And I wish the world thought like that. Youngsters, if you're out there right now, do not give a darn what opinions people have of you. Long as that opinion is not consistent of that of yourself. You be you. I'm not playing to make you feel good about me. I already feel good about me. I'm good. Message for the youngsters out there and the old school, not old fools.
I don't know, man. There's something about it that
beautiful.
That just resonates. Now, it's great advice, by the way. Great advice for the kids too. I don't know that you can just say it and they believe it. I believe it for him. I believe that he really doesn't care what anybody thinks about him. He's just going to keep moving forward, which makes him a very strong character. But I do remember there was a clip that I was also taken with back in the day when there was a guy named Dan Hawkins who we took from Boise State who came. And Dan Hawkins was at one of the alumni something dinners or lunches. And I remember this clip. I've played it a million times before, where he said, yeah, I was talking about with the parents of the players. I was talking about, here are the schedules and here's the expectations and all this. And, some of the practices and stuff were going to start taking place during spring break and all these other things. And I had some parents come up and say, whoa, we've got some plans for spring break, and don't the kids need a break, and the pressure of the academics. And so here's the thing. And he starts yelling at the top of his voice, like, it's Division I football. It's Big 12 football. And I thought, okay, that's great advice. I like that stuff. That guy flamed out in a hurry.
Yeah, he did.
And guess what he has in common with Coach Prime? He started his son, Cody Hawkins, at quarterback. Coach Prime is going to start Shedeur, who's probably an infinitely better, he's certainly a taller quarterback. So I hope that Coach Prime does a lot better than Dan did, because Dan flamed out in a hurry. He was a bust. And in fact, Shanny Sauce from over at the other station across the street, I don't know if you know who I'm talking about, Shannon Scott, has a great story about walking into the locker room at one point, right after the team leaves to go take the field after halftime or something like that. He finds Hawkins face down on the floor, just like straight as a board. And he's walking in to grab some equipment, and he looks down and he goes, Coach? And he screams at him. He's like, leave me alone, leave me alone, screams, and then gets up and walks out of the locker room. And I thought, there's something going on there.
Yeah,
I don't know. I want to know what happened at halftime. How did you end up in that position?
Yeah, exactly.
But this is a little bit of a digression from the story you were telling, which I thought was great, which is you were in a position to really have to find value in you. Because you just didn't have a bunch of buddies to float you along in those early days of school.
Nope, not at all. And it's one of the things I've talked to my kids about, is that there are going to be a lot of people that are going to throw rocks at you. But if, just like Coach Prime said, if their opinion doesn't matter, who cares? I am never going to let somebody else define my self-worth. That is not their job. That's not why they exist in my life. And that's on me. That's on me to find out what my self-worth is and to be proud of who I am. And I better be making the decisions and the choices so that I'm proud of me. But if I have to rely on the adulation or the approval of other people, you've missed the plot of the novel. And by missing the plot of the novel, I said the time.
My God, we've blown it up. It also explains why every morning when I walk in and I say, you are a worthless human being, you just seem unfazed by those.
Say thank you.
Yeah, you're just like, whatever. You're out of time. We are out of time. We've got to cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to get to the phone calls. We're going to get to the text. George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Final minute or so. Tony on the line. Tony, I'd love to take you. I'm just afraid that if we get into the story, I'm going to end up having to cut you off. I don't want to do that. So let me do this. We'll continue this conversation. Some text coming in here too. It's interesting too, just how wide the variety of texts are. Most of them are just like, hey, this is great stuff. They tell us the stories about the things. Every once in a while, someone's like, who cares? And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand. There's other options out there. If you're looking for angry white man radio, there's plenty of that out there. But today, I don't know. I'm just taking with this other topic. Let me tell you about something else, though, that can really ruin your first day of school. And that is messed up teeth. Yep, that's right. One way to fix that is to go to our buddies at Twin Aspen Dental Center. That's Doctors Richter and Snyder. I think Dr. Snyder, if it's not this month, I think she's a new mom, or we should find out. We should get Dr. Richter on, and Snyder, frankly. Maybe a new mom. Great family-oriented law firm. And it's just a local law firm. Good God, dental office. These dentists are local folks who are just trying to make the community better with better smiles. And that's why they have a product out there that says if you don't have dental insurance and you have trouble coming up with the bucks to get all the dental health that you need taken care of, they've got a product for that. You can get the 2 cleanings per year. You can get all the emergency care. You can get the x-rays that you need. That's an organization that is not about just turning a buck. It's about trying to figure out a way to help you and the community. And I love these guys. They're so nice. They're so good. In and out, but you don't feel rushed. Great conversationalist, which is great when you got their fingers and tools in your mouth. Just really nice people. If you're looking for a stress-free place to go get your teeth worked on, you ought to check out Twin Aspen Dental Center. You can do it at twinaspendentalcenter.com. Just put those 4 words together, twinaspendentalcenter.com. You can call them at 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. Or just get in the car, drive down, stop in, say hi, make that appointment. They're at Stroh and Parker Road, easy to get to, right by Lehman Academy. That's twinaspendentalcenter.com. Now, listen, that'll do it for this hour. When we come back, I got other topics lined up, but I got to tell you, I'm just feeling a little nostalgic, if you will, based on it being that first day of school for the kids. Love to hear your stories. Love to hear your thoughts as well. 303-696-1971 is the numbers. George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Lots going on in the world. Maui burning. I saw that. That's a little bit shocking. I had some thoughts about trying to one day in the near future plan a little trip there or something like that with the kids and whatnot. But I'll be darned if this is actually off a Drudge. Picture of this. It looks like this, I don't know, pyramid or mountain on fire. It says Maui burning, historic town destroyed, people flee into sea. Interesting rhyme. 911 is down. It is apocalyptic. Dang. That's some scary stuff out there. One of our 50 states and one of the great ones. We're also talking about the school thing. Now, listen, here's the text I got back. If you were there at the end of the hour, I said, look, most of the texts have been good. They have little stories about things that are going on with people and their memories of going to school, either on the first day or in general. And by the way, I'm happy to turn this into catharsis and confession hour here with school. And I had said, listen, there's plenty of angry white men radio out there to get. And a texter said, I'm not looking for angry white man radio. I like being informed and learning. And I read that to Billy, and his instant response was, what are you doing here? Which is funny. We do talk about things, and we get, of course, the influencers and policymakers on the radio and stuff here, but that's not an everyday thing. I mean, look, I know it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but I just think back at your time in school. I mean, that's what's going on here. I also, you cannot convince kids of the truth of this, and that is your life will never be easier than it is right now. Like, soak it all in, love it, enjoy. If I could go back in time, if I could do that, like the old Disney movies with the role reversal or Freaky Friday or something like that, I could take over the planet Earth. But you're just, it's like God's little trick on you. He just puts a brain in you that has such limited perspective and a limited sense of patience and what's to come that, you wish away a lot of what you're going through right there. And then you get to a place where you're, my age or Billy's age. Billy's 75, folks, if you didn't know that. If you haven't gotten on to the Rumble or the YouTube and looked, Billy is about as well preserved a 75-year-old man, as you're going to find out there in media. And you begin to look back and think, I just raced through the best days that I had. You're young, you have no responsibilities, and Graham still finds a way to forget things like lunch, or shoes for whatever sport he's playing at the moment or something like that. But you have no responsibilities. So forgive me if I want to take some time on a Wednesday in the middle of the week when, we could talk some more about Trump, and I'm happy to do that. The dude's constantly in the news. But I just like the idea of having just a very easy conversation about what has gone on with your first day of school. Billy talked about his. I talked a little bit about mine. Mine were more just the memories of the feelings than the actual memories themselves. But I want to have that conversation with you at 303-696-1971, getting us kicked off on that. And he was gracious enough to wait around from the last hour. Tony, you're on 710. What do you think, Tony?
Hey, thanks a lot. I want to share a story about high school, but real quick on that Hawaii thing. That's Lahaina. I don't know if you know that.
Right south of Ka'anapali. I know it well. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's one of my favorite places. I can't believe
it's an old whaling village. Old whaling village. It's wonderful.
It's a cool place, and I hear it's just a flame. It's sad. Anyway, so I got to share the story about high school with you. So I went to school mid-70s at Arapahoe, and 11th grade. First September of 11th grade, 4 of us decide we're gonna run away, drop out, run away, go to another city and start a life, and that obviously was going to flame out eventually, and so a year later we're all back in place, and I decided I still wanted to do something, so I went to Arapahoe Community College, and they didn't require at that time no GED, no diploma. You could just start taking classes. So I just started taking liberal arts classes, and it went well. I'd be a 3.9 student, and I'd be student body president. Time of my life. What I didn't get in high school, I got out of that. Yeah. So I decided I'm going to transfer it off. I want to go to DU and get my degree. So I applied to them as a transfer student. They never even asked about high school in any way, shape, or form, because they're just looking at what I did there. And they accept me, and so I get my degree from DU with no diploma, no GED, which is pretty rare. I mean, that doesn't happen very often, and it probably couldn't happen today. So some 18 years later, or whatever it is, my daughters went through the same schools I went through, elementary, middle school, high school. And my daughter, my youngest, is the editor of the yearbook in her senior year.
Oh my goodness.
And one night at dinner, we're sitting there and she just kind of talking about the day. She throws, "Hey, Dad, I was looking through the yearbook and when you would have graduated and your picture wasn't there. What happened? Why didn't you go for picture day?" And then my wife and I just looked at each other and I said, "Well, I got a story to tell you."
Wow.
And in the household where school is their job. I mean, that's their job. I mean, that's all they had to do.
That's right.
And they had to do that well. That's all they had to do, and they had to do it well. I share that story, and I mean, they were shocked. And I think my oldest daughter at the end of that said, "What else don't we know about our dad?"
That's funny. That's funny. Was picture day the first day for you guys?
I don't remember.
It is today. It is today for the kids, at least at Rock Canyon and Rocky Heights. Is
Oh,
picture
really?
day.
Okay.
I don't remember it being the first day, but Graham did, and he is wearing the exact same George Washington baseball shirt that he'd worn it in 6th grade for that picture, and then accidentally wore it for 7th grade on the same day. And he saw those pictures, and now he's like, "Well, obviously I have to keep wearing it." So he's thrown it on again, despite how it fits. And he's like, "I'm going for the hat trick." And I'm like, "Can you find the old picture and try to pose the same way, just so we get that, that like development over time?"
Yeah, years later. Yeah.
Yeah. But the picture story is a great one, Tony. That's fantastic. Did you ever get in trouble in high school?
I didn't go enough to get in trouble.
Well, that's how you minimize your risk, I suppose, of being called out in class for misbehavior.
I was on the every other day program from 9th grade on.
How in the world did you make it through life, man?
Barely.
Yeah, that's tremendous. Hey,
Anyway,
Tony, thanks for getting us kicked off, man. Tony's line is open, 303-696-1971. I love the stories. I will tell you, and I talked to Billy about this a little bit off air. There are so many things that I can think of that I made a decision to participate in or be a close enough eyewitness that I would be considered an accomplice, that I just got lucky. I mean, had I been caught by the authorities in just sort of, I don't know, I could have been, there's no chance I end up an officer in the United States Army. There's no chance I end up as the elected district attorney, but those things just didn't happen. And now that the statute is run, I feel like it's important to have this moment of confession. I feel like, speaking of Pat McGroin, I feel like I'm talking with Father William Thorpe, Father Billy T, about what I did way back in the day. I mean, we're going back over 30 years. Oh my God, 35 plus years ago.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I have a deal in my house that there are certain things that I will tell the kids when they reach the age of 18. And then there's another series of things that you get to hear about once you're 21.
Oh,
but
really?
We do not discuss those before.
I wish I had thought to put those little
and
guardrails in place.
And there are some stories that, and hi, Mom, I love you. She's probably listening today. There are some stories she doesn't know yet. So we're not going to.
Are you going to share them today?
No.
Are these going to be like, as you're saying goodbye to Mom, you're going to tell her these stories?
Yeah, possibly.
Real quickly, Mom. In 10th grade,
yeah. The one that you were just referencing a moment ago, and I can't share that one, is I used to get in trouble. I was on the speech and debate team in
Why
Mullen.
can't you share that one?
I can share that one. I was on the speech and debate team at Mullen, and we would travel. And what I would do is when we were traveling into the airports, I would go and find the white paging telephone. We remember those, right?
Yeah, racist.
And I would randomly page people that are totally inappropriate. My favorite one, and I still remember this standing in, I think we were in Atlanta at the time, is I went over, I snuck away from the group, and my favorite one to page is Father Patrick McGroin, but call him Pat. So they'd say, paging Father Pat McGroin, Father Pat McGroin. And I still remember being away from the group, coming back to the group and waiting to hear it. And the coach is up at the front, and he is, and we're like in this group, and he hears above him, paging Father Pat McGroin. Father Pat McGroin, please find the nearest white paging telephone. And without missing a beat, he yells, Thorpe, will you effing stop that? in the middle of the airport. I'm like, yeah, that was me.
I
Sorry
had
about
said
that.
too, it feels like Bart Simpson with Mo
It
at
was.
Mo's bar,
Yeah,
you know?
my kids have thought it was funny that there are actually 3 different pranks that Bart plays on Mo. They're names that I used to use. Yeah, and that was one of the things that I did quite a bit. Yeah, that's one of the things we can share to the public right
Buddy,
now.
that's just funny. I have ones that are by definition criminal in nature.
Oh, I've got some of those. I have several that are actual felonies, one of which, and Mom, we'll talk about this later, much later, not today. One of these ended up on the news.
Oh my good grief.
Yeah, they're on the news.
Like an unsolved crime?
Yes. It was one of those.
This feels like
if
Dateline.
anybody knows what happened to blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
please let them like, oh, that's us. Yeah.
Yes.
I remember seeing my dad watch the report and I'm going, okay. I'm like, I know how to solve this crime.
Yeah.
I know exactly what happened.
Yeah,
I didn't say anything though.
The little things were and I've told this story before, but
yeah,
I've had this voice since I was like 13, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
I became the guy that called in to excuse, sorry, Roger's father, but Roger Noonan from class all the time. And I would be the guy that would call in, hey, this is so-and-so's dad, and busy day at work today. And this is all pre-cell phones, folks. So, landlines were very limiting.
No caller ID.
No caller
Yeah.
ID. But I remember being the inheritor of when I was a junior going into senior. The seniors had a set of keys to the entire Bear Creek High School. Now that building has since been razed and replaced by a much nicer building, of course, after we graduated.
Yeah.
And I received a set of keys for the school. I mean, this thing exists. I'm sure there are administrators and teachers who would be like, you've got to be kidding me. No, I'm not kidding you. It must have been 20 keys on this key ring.
Oh my gosh.
And so one night, me and my buds, who will remain nameless, although I named them earlier in the show, and we all decided, hey, let's go there at like 10 o'clock at night and let's just go inside and, we weren't destructive. It wasn't like criminal mischief. It was just like, we're in the school.
Yeah.
And so we let ourselves into the gym. And then we run around the locker room in the gym and we shoot some hoops and we're like, on the pads and stuff. And then we're like, let's go into the girls' locker room too, which, by the way, is still creepy in a weird way, even when no one's there. There's no chance you're going to walk in on someone, but you feel like you're doing something wrong, Yeah. And we're in there, and I don't know what the little Spidey voice was that said, hey, we've had enough fun. Let's get the hell out of here. But we take off. We start walking across the unlit field, pitch black. And Lakewood PD shows up, lights rolling, like rockers going, 2 cars rip into the parking lot. And as it turns out, there was a silent alarm that goes off. Like when you let yourself into the building, you got to go make a phone call, not a pad. It's not that technology. You call into someone and say, hey, it's Coach so-and-so or whatever.
Yeah.
And there we are laying face down in the grass on the soccer field, looking back at these cops pull right up to the gym. And I thought, oh my God. I mean, we were 10 minutes from being hooked up and taken away, and I thought but for the grace of God. So as a prosecutor, when I would get these juvenile cases, and I didn't spend a long time in juvenile, a lot of them, by the way, horrific. When you say kids can be monsters, that's real. That's true. But there were some cases where I'd get them and I'd sit there and think, you hypocrite. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. You were right there. You were next to this kid telling him to do it 20 years ago. Like, what is going on?
Oh, yeah.
So luck played a big role in my being able to get to the place where I can get to this microphone without an ankle monitor.
I had a lot of luck, too. I still remember there was one time in high school where my father had gone out and took my car. He was running some errands or something in the morning. And he comes back, and it's on a Saturday or something, and walks into my room and it's like, so, in the back of the car, there's this. How is that in the car? I'm like, well, you see, it kind of, and he goes, I really should stop asking questions, shouldn't I? And I go, probably a good idea. He goes, okay. He goes, don't get caught. And they just walked out of the room. I got to grab their phone.
Yeah, the phone's ringing, which is a good sign. I can tell you there was one other one. I can't remember what the theme of this thing was, but every year seniors would quote unquote kidnap freshmen from, I can't remember, like go to their house or something, or they'd be at a party. I can't remember where it is. I can remember some of the faces in the van. Of course, I had the family van and I was driving, which makes me, of course, an accomplice, not an accessory, not a conspirator, although yes, a conspirator, but that's a lower class charge. I was as guilty as the principals. And And we weren't rough or brutal about it. I had a great group of friends, and we would grab up these freshmen, and it was sort of consensual, non-consensual. We'd grab them up and blindfold them and then drive them up into the, by Morrison or something like that. And then cut them loose and tell them, hey, you got to walk home. Make sure. We were very good about it. Some seniors took their shoes. There's no way we were going to do that. We also gave them money to make phone calls because, again, no cell phones. Got to use the payphone. We'd always make sure that it was within a mile of the payphone. And I just remember thinking how harmless this seemed like it was. Of course, ignorant of the potential risks. But at the same time, if that were to happen today, somebody's going to get arrested. And it's not going to be the freshmen, right? It's going to be the seniors. And I thought, God, I guess when you're that young, you just do a lot of stupid things, but at the same time, never enough to truly hurt someone. I can think of the other time where the cheerleaders in Palms had their overnight thing they did at the high school, whatever that was. We knew about it. We showed up and they had these huge landscaping rocks in front of the old Bear Creek. And while some of us rolled those huge, I mean, they thousands of pounds. I don't know tonnage because a bunch of guys would get out and we would roll these things to block the parking lot in and out. So like 3 of them, there's no way you drive a car through there. Meanwhile, other guys would fork the grass, in the yard around the school and stuff like that, which, as you know, is just brutal to try to undo. And just at the time, we just thought we were so funny, and it's just so clever. And looking back, I don't know, man. I'm sure today police would show up and someone was getting tased. Probably the kid with the mouth, probably me. I don't know. Listen, I got to cut away for a break, and then we're going to come back. And we've got callers on the line. We've got some text coming in too. But man, you can share those stories. We can also change it up and talk about some of the current event stuff. But God, we do that every day, and it's not that there's anything wrong with it. I don't know, feeling nostalgic today, taking Grammy to his first day of 8th grade. Hey, before I cut away, though, I want to tell you, if you are experiencing any kind of joint pain, and I'm talking lower back, neck, shoulders, knees, hips, you're either going to suck it up and drive on through the rest of your life saying, hey, I just have these limitations because of pain. I don't think that's the right decision. I think that's kind of dumb. The other is you go see your doc, and your doc's going to tell you a whole bunch of things, like maybe you should take a bunch of pills. I hate pills. Or they're going to say, maybe you should go see my buddy, this orthopedic surgeon, and she or he is going to tell you, I can fix that with a scalpel and a suture and some other things and a cadaver's this or something. I don't know. Also an icky prospect. There is another option, and it's our friends at QC Kinetix. They do regenerative medicine. That's the kind of stuff that wasn't available, 100 years ago. It's the stuff that's very modern, where they take your body parts from you, and they don't actually move the parts around, but they take the best parts of you and put them back into you through regenerative medicine. And then lo and behold, you get better without the cutting, without the downtime, without the rehabilitation. Give yourself an opportunity to try to stump their local medical professionals. Go to their website, qckinetics.com, qckinetics.com. QC Kinetix, ends in an X.com, and then give them a call at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. I'm going to say it one more time, but I'm going to do it backwards. No, I'm kidding. It's still 303-900-8986. Give them a call, try to stump them, and then after you've had all your questions answered, sign up and get it done, then call us and let us know how it goes. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to get to the phone conversation that Billy's having with a caller right now, as well as the text. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS.
Why should you buy your next vehicle at Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram? We make car shopping easy. We have a huge inventory of new and pre-owned vehicles. We can even custom order. We make it easy. Easy financing, friendly staff. And when it comes to quality service, our expert technicians keep your vehicle in top shape. Visit us today off of Highway 25 and Plum Creek, or shop online at castlerockcdjr.com. Castle Rock Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and Ram. Car shopping made easy. Why should you buy?
Little Pearl Jam right here from 710 KNUS. George Brauchler with you. Text coming in here. George and Billy, I've enjoyed hearing your stories. It's a nice break from everyday politics. Glad you two turned out so well. Honestly, that is just straight up luck. I don't really think it's just straight up luck, man. I mean, there are things, God, there are things I recall that friends did where I thought to myself, you should be in jail. I had friends that went to jail, by the way.
Me too.
And they, by the way, a couple of them have come out. They went to juvenile prison for some bad, violent things that they did, but completely rehabbed. I mean, they're Democrats, but other than that, completely rehabbed.
Mostly rehabbed.
Mostly rehab, not politically, but in terms of they're probably make more money than you and I do, but they've turned out to be largely good folks who have turned their lives around, and I am super, super proud of them, and I think it's great when the system works.
Oh, it is, and there are some stories and some things that I know that for a couple of different decisions, or because one of my friends didn't particularly have that set of bolt cutters that night. Yes, there may have been a longer criminal record on mine. Well, okay, again, sorry about this.
Here we go.
One night we were doing some mischief. We'll just put it as that. We, the kids, were doing mischief, and the mischief covered 4 different police jurisdictions, and all of them got in on it.
What is this, the unsolved one?
No, this is a different one. This is a totally different one. And we end up inside of a community that is being built at the time. And we did not understand that there is only one way in and out. But yes, the Popo did. So they're hanging out down front, waiting for us to come out, knowing there's only one way in and out. And so we're talking about what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And a buddy of mine's like, oh, I got bolt cutters in the back of my trunk. Let's go. So we went over to the back of the complex and cut a hole in the fence and drove up a hill in our cars in order to get to the road and drive away.
Listen, as someone,
so again, I would have had a record if it not for the bolt cutters.
As someone who has spent a career in this area, you have a criminal mindset. You absolutely.
I will take that as a compliment.
That kind of thought process. Like there are some, and you don't want these folks in your foxhole. There are some who have quickly seen the situation and assessed, one, how do I surrender with the least amount of injury? And who am I throwing under the bus?
Exactly.
Because Billy made me do it. You know what I mean? Like, or something like that. And you guys instead thought, and if it was your idea, Billy, my hat's off to you, but also yikes, because that is the kind of thing you.
I was definitely the guy holding the fence open while the cars drove through too. That was me. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
The other thing, I've said this and I believe it. We don't catch the smart ones other than by bad luck. We don't catch the smart ones. And maybe this guy doesn't sound smart because we caught him and everything he did seems so outrageous. But the killer dentist, remember, but for that woman at the office opening that package, I don't know that we find out that this guy poisoned his wife and had done all these internet searches like, how does Dr. Death kill his wife without any evidence? You know?
Exactly.
So
they would have no reason to look.
Just kind of luck, providence, maybe it is. And if it's not luck, if it's providence, what was God's reason for sparing you from the system? You know,
I have no idea, because there were times when, and the other one was, there were a couple of times we were able to talk our way out of trouble. That was my job. My job was
of course, the speech and debate guy.
That was my job, and it worked numerous times. We were supposed to be arrested, but instead we just got curfew tickets because we were up at Red Rocks at times that we were not supposed to be. And that was supposed to go down there. The funny part is, this is great. So we're up at Red Rocks and the police are showing up, and there are a couple of groups of us that are up there. So, we did not know that there were several other groups of people up there doing mischief. And so we're in line, and they kind of are all lining us up, and we look over and we're like, hey, Chris, Colin, what's up? So, guys that we knew were in another group that was up there doing something else, doing mischief. And then one of the police officers, there are 2 cars that show up. One of them gets out and refers to one of my buddies by first name.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and he's like, hi, Officer Smith.
Yeah. It's like the wrong kind of cheers.
Exactly.
Norm,
it's exactly it. That is
hey,
exactly
Officer
what happened.
Smith.
Yeah. And how we only got curfew tickets, I am not sure, because we deserved more. That's all we walked out of there with. So
yeah, text from our buddy Joan. She said she's not going to listen anymore because she said for some high school was a nightmare, and I didn't have that experience. And maybe that's true. It wasn't in my mind. Bear Creek High School in the mid to late 80s was the Breakfast Club. You know what I mean? Like that. But I imagine for some it was horrific and the nightmares are real, but I just didn't have that experience. I mean, the bad things that happen that you amplify in your head were never as bad. Like nobody ever brought a gun to school.
Yeah.
There was never any stabbings. I mean, every once in a while you were like, hey, so-and-so had weed in their locker and Lakewood PD is here to, but nothing like that. I don't remember bullying in the same way.
I was never one of the cool kids, never in the cool kid crowd. So I was constantly teased. I was made fun of. I was ostracized. Yeah. But as we went around, as we talked about last hour, I didn't care. Because the people that were teasing me and made fun of me, I didn't, what they thought of me held zero impact on my self-worth. In fact, I told you the story off air that I'm sitting in the hallways at Mullen High School at the time. Buddy's sitting next to me and we're on the floor doing some work. And the captain of the football team, who also is the number one starting pitcher on the baseball team. He was prom king. Comes up, and of course, and it is just like in the movies, he's up front, and he's got his two, minions behind him, and he comes up, and he kicks my feet and says, yeah, me and my buddies think you guys are a bunch of weirdos. And I go, yeah, we think you're a bunch of a-holes. So, and he just looks at me like, not what I was expecting. I'm like, I didn't care. So the fact that the captain of the football team, the prom king, comes over and calls me a freak, don't care. Because what you think of me doesn't shape my self-worth.
See, so that makes you stronger.
Give a damn.
I wish I could say that. And to a large extent, it's true. And it's truer now. Once you go through politics, you realize, or you're on the radio, you realize there are a lot of brutal haters out there.
Oh, yeah.
But at some point, you're like, whatever, man. I don't care. If I don't value your opinion, it doesn't mean anything about.
Oh, yeah. I was a soccer player. We were teased constantly by the football team. We were second-class citizens. And I still remember we were supposed to get new uniforms because the team hadn't gotten new uniforms in almost a decade.
Yeah.
And the athletic director, who also just happened to be the head football coach, decided that the
Coach
money,
Levine?
Yeah.
Oh, buddy.
Would be Coach Pete Levine.
Yeah.
The money would be better spent buying the football team those little nets that the field goal kicker kicks into. So they got
no new uniforms.
Nope. They got 3 nets. We got nothing.
Yeah,
surprise.
That's dumb.
Yeah, but that's just what happened.
I do recall in high school too, looking down on, not mocking, the golf guys and the tennis guys, right? Like that is not men's sport is like football. Soccer, my buddies, Johnny O and Corey, were starting soccer players on a team that went to the quarters of the semis in the States. So I'd never had any problems with soccer, but the golf and the tennis guys. And come to find out, joke's on me, man. After my senior year of high school, I never put on a set of pads and a helmet ever again. Those dudes are still playing tennis and golf.
They're still doing the golf thing. I liked the golf guys only because I'm like, damn, you figured out a way to like get out of about 3 to 4 hours of school. You've done this thing a lot better than I have.
That's so
because
smart.
You can't start the golf match at 3. It's got to start like at 1. So you've got 12:30. They're getting out noon. I'm like, you figured something out here that I haven't quite figured out.
Now that I'm saying it, I failed my kids. I should have had them learn tennis or golf. Grammy wants to play golf, but there's only one of him, man. Cross country is today for him, and it never ends. Cross country, baseball, basketball, wrestling. There's no time for him to do it.
No.
Jeff, on the other hand, could. And he's the fencer, so he's got that kind of pacing in there. I think if he was told there's no running in golf, he might be interested because this is a kid who loves fencing because there's no running in fencing. You know what I mean?
It's like, we're not doing wind sprints, Dad. No wind sprints today. Not in fencing.
I mean, surveying all the sports you could do out there at that age, the only other one that may be even less movement is archery.
That's true.
That's the only one where... And I don't know why he hasn't done archery.
Yeah. And that's funny that you talk about tennis because, the big thing right now is pickleball.
Oh, pickleball.
Yeah. And I look at pickleball, and for me, pickleball is just tennis for people that don't want to run. That's all that is.
Oh, you know what?
That's all it is.
I'm obviously going to start playing pickleball.
That's all that is. And tennis, I had a lot of respect for the tennis players in school because I had mocked one of them at one point, and they go, come here. Not in a mean way, but they're like, no, here. And I'm like, what is it? And he goes, come in here and show me how to do this, or I'll show you. I'm like, okay. He's like, here, take this ball, hit it into that square over there. And it's only the big square on the other side of the net. I can't do it with any sort of power. I cannot. I failed miserably. And he's like, no, clong. And I'm like, I can't do that. And I'm hitting the back fence. I cannot get it in the big square. I'm like, all right, you have my respect now. I go, this is obviously something that I completely suck at. So I am no longer going to ever make fun of you or ever say anything about that, because no. And even to this day, I cannot play tennis. There's nothing.
I want to. I've tried it before. A friend or so, over the years, maybe a couple times, will say, hey, let's go out and do this, just low key stuff. I've thrown a racket every single time. Like, this is outrageous. I didn't hit the ball that way. Why is it going that way?
This racket is broken.
Yeah, I didn't do that. I didn't tell the ball to go there.
Yeah,
and it just so I've broken rackets. Some of them were mine. It doesn't. I got to figure out some other thing, because right now I don't have a sport. I don't even have time for a hobby. I'm trying to figure out a way to do this running thing. That's another thing I should have done in high school. I should have done cross country, but it conflicted with football. I could have done track because I didn't play baseball in high school.
Track is stupid.
But it's at least some running thing. Like, you could run now.
Now, the thing is, not the track and field events are not, but the track meet is stupid. And I'm sorry, track people. How you organize your little sporty thing is incredibly dumb. Because, and again, I was a fast runner in high school. Now, let's just say that I enjoy the hops and the pizza a little bit too much to be any kind of a runner.
No,
not
Billy,
at all.
people have a camera. They can see your line.
I
That's
don't know.
not true.
It looks like there's two of me on the camera. The other is, they keep thinking that, George looks normal, but that other guy, that's got to be wide focus or something.
For some, and I don't mean this to sound racist at all, but if you say Chinese phone book, sometimes people look and go, I get exactly what you're talking about.
That's exactly
right there.
So I could run, and I was fast, and they kept asking me to join the track team. And they wanted me to do some of the sprints because I was faster than some of the people running the sprints. And I said, if you can tell me when to show up for the race and then I can leave afterwards, fine. He's like, nope, got to be there the whole day. I'm not sitting around for 2 or 3 hours so I can run for 45 seconds. That is dumb. I'm like, I can show up at the soccer field and I can be there for 2.5 hours and I can run for 90 minutes. You need to figure this out. And he would never, ever tell me that, okay, you could do this if you show up at this time. I don't know if there's some sort of stupid rule that you all have to sit around and do nothing in the stands for 2 hours. I don't know
like
if that's
a swim meet,
bylaws.
That feels swim meaty.
Again, and wrestling meeting. And
dumb.
Yeah, and dumb.
Wrestling meeting, though, you can, you're just going to keep going from the smallest guy to the biggest guy. I mean, it just keeps
but even
going.
then, it's sitting around and doing nothing for hours and then go, okay, get a run for 35 seconds. That is stupid. That is a phenomenal waste of my time. So I never did that. That's why, again, I got all the respect in the world for you doing the actual events, but the actual track meet, the setup is moronic.
Billy, any idea on whether or not, this is just a segue here talking about that.
I like this.
Anybody know whether or not the Mega Millions jackpot was won?
Yes, it was.
It was won?
Yes, it was. And it is not you.
Okay, I didn't buy a ticket. I forgot. I even put a calendar item in my calendar.
That would be the explanation as to why it wasn't you.
Is it someone from Colorado? Because my dread is I hear it's like, oh, it's the Quickie Mart down the road. And I'll be like,
mine too. I know it's in a different state.
Is it a single person won 1.537 billion?
They say it's a single ticket. Yeah. So don't know if it's a group of people or not. But yeah, and I know that is not here because I forgot the place where they bought it. That doesn't exist here, and it's not in Colorado. So that was important to me, to just like you, to make sure that I didn't miss out on possibly getting that winning ticket.
Dang it!
Yeah.
Now it starts over again at some wussy 100 million or some crap like that.
Yeah, because here's right here. Here's my ticket that is worthless.
You know what? It could actually it's not worthless.
It's
you didn't. You could have won $1 million or $10,000.
I will check, but that's it. Yeah.
Because I bought one the last time.
It's also the reason I'm here in the morning, because if the ticket did hit,
honestly, you're right. If you had won, pretty sure it's Pete and Kelly
exactly
talking about the whole thing right here.
Yeah.
One person, as we were talking about it, I kind of wish I could interview on our station about his experience in high school would be Dan Caplis.
Oh,
I'd love to hear from DJC what it was like, because when you meet people and you assess them and you wonder, what was it that made you the way you are? I feel like today I've learned something, Billy, because your ability to be social with a bunch of different people, I think is a product too of you being stuck in those environments where you were all by yourself and you didn't know anyone and you had to figure out a way to thrive.
Yes, absolutely. That is one of them. And the other one that you should have taken away from today is that if you and I ever get stuck in a dark alley and people are approaching us, I got you. You and I will take them. With your training and my devious nature, we're good.
And
we
then
are be
apparently
just fine.
we'll be able to talk our way out of the crime scene.
Exactly.
So sort of,
yeah.
Officer, you should have seen the guys that just ran through here and
Should have
did
seen
this. These poor guys.
It's not us. And no, that is not blood on my hands.
No, I don't know why they would have repeatedly kicked them there. That seems like gratuitous.
does.
Nonetheless, if you are thinking of Dan Caplis, it's probably not for what he did in high school. It's what he's been doing in courtrooms across the state of Colorado. I heard him say this the other day, 39 years. It's not possible because that means he's been practicing law since he was like 18 or 20 or something like that. It's just crazy because he never looks older. I'm really pissed off he doesn't have gray hair. And what that tells me is guy sleeps like a baby at night. I haven't been able to do that since I got back from Iraq. This guy sleeps through the night because he knows he's doing God's work out there. This guy fights for the oppressed. This guy fights for the little guy. He fights for the injured, and he sets it up in such a way that they don't pay him a penny. He doesn't take a penny from you for it. He gets paid only when you get paid, and that means that the incentive there, which he never needed this incentive, by the way. The whole time I worked for him 15, 16, 17 years ago, I never heard him once talk about money in terms of, hey, we get this cut or we need to. I never heard him talk about it in those terms. It was always in terms of, hey, this is a garbage offer from this insurance company because this guy's going to deal with this for the next 25 years of his life, or this is going to keep. He always talked in terms of justice and those scales of justice. And frankly, he's the great equalizer, man, with the insurance companies. He has the experience, the expertise, he has the horsepower and the resources to match those guys. And that's why they tend to fold. And when they don't, and they take Dan to trial, Dan goes off the radio for a little bit, comes back and talks about how he crushed State Farm again or some other insurance company. And if you want that kind of a fighter in your corner, then you got to give them a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check them out at Dan Caplis. Dan is spelled D-A-N. Caplis is with a C. DanCaplisLaw.com. When we come back, we're going to continue the conversation with you, some of the texts that are coming in, and we'll wrap it up right here for this great hump day in August. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
You know, I can't help myself. Just a small town girl. It's not really a small town girl. It's Lakewood, Colorado, George, right here on 710 KNUS. I have just enough time to do a couple things. One is to tell you about Gay Ribble at Empower Home Team at Keller Williams. Gay, a wizard at what she does, and that is making families happy in their brand new homes and getting them out of the homes they're in right now. I mean, it may be because you're moving. It could be because your family's expanding or contracting. Empty nesters, doesn't matter. Even though school has started, the time is right now before we see what the Fed may do here at their next meeting. Jump on this. Reach out to Gay Ribble, and you can check her out at gayhasthebuyers.com. Gay is G-A-Y-E. There's no magic to it. She does have all the buyers, like 14,000 plus waiting for your home listing. But you can also give her a call. That team is wicked nice, wicked smart. They'll answer all your questions like, hey, do you sell for on average more than other realtors? Yes. Faster than other realtors? Yes. 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. But honestly, only call if you're looking to sign up with a winner. If you're just fishing around thinking all realtors are the same, you can go to the website, but really pick up the phone and call them, and she'll help make the dreams come true. Now, listen, I want to thank Big Pete for filling in for me for the first 2 hours. I just don't know how many times that'll happen, because one of the downsides of having the 6 to 10 a.m. slot, and there aren't many other than not being able to sleep, is I just don't get to see the kids off and take them to school. So this was a special day for me, and I want to thank Pete for that. Billy, of course, for covering down as well, like old times with him. But I did something in anticipation of the show. When I was driving during the show, when I was driving to drop Graham off at Rocky Heights for day one, I thought, I want to remember this moment. So I grabbed the phone, and in a completely safe manner at about 45 miles an hour, I took this video, the sound of which is right here. It is August the 9th, 2023.
I thought it was a picture.
No, it's a video. It's the very first day of 8th grade, which will be the last year for Grandma Lama Ding Dong at Rocky Heights Middle School.
Hopefully the last year.
Well, right. I mean, redo, of course. What are your thoughts?
It came so quickly.
No, summer just...
It's crazy.
Just disappeared, man.
Yeah. But if school goes the same way summer did, it'll only feel like 4 months. So.
Yeah, it won't. By the way, it'll go longer. You have cross country this afternoon?
Yeah, I got my shoes on.
Yeah, I got your shoes on.
The Pink Panthers.
Bam. Those are the good ones. Is there something you're most excited for?
Just my friends again.
Both of them? Both of them?
Yeah, actually, there's 3 this time.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
That's great. Listen, is there anything you're dreading about school? Gave me the weirdest look, man. What was that look? Is there anything that you're like, man, I'm really not looking forward to that?
Yeah. So it's the part about being at school.
The actual part about being at school.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I'm excited for you, man. This time next year, we'll be driving, and it'll be, I can't believe I'm saying it out loud, your first year of high school. I don't want that to come any more quickly than it seems like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any last words before we sign you off?
Have a good day.
That is my youngest, man. 13, going on God knows what. He's going to be 14 in November. It was just a blessing that the station was able to support me and Pete too, and let me drive him to school for that first day of 8th grade, man. I love those kids. And these moments, man, I don't know. At some point, you just don't get any more of them. So this was magical. I hope you guys are okay with the show today, that wasn't all about politics, either local or national. We'll get to the current event stuff tomorrow. Stick around for Deb at 3, Stefan from 4 to 7, and then we'll be back here at 6 to 10 a.m. tomorrow. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.